Our journey kicks off with Mythic World, a dating sim released a decade ago specifically for female gamers. Surprisingly, it exploded with male players instead. The mechanics offer a massive roster of heroes to choose from, ranging from beginner-friendly powerhouses to high-difficulty trash-tier units that nobody in their right mind would touch. Deep within this massive roster sits a forgotten hero, a character so impossible to level up he's total garbage. His stats are trash. But one absolute legend, Ba Yu Seol, has grinded this character for 10 grueling years straight. Right in Telbus, he's cracking his knuckles. He's the only one crazy enough to main this bottom-tier, discarded loser. On a crisp, peaceful afternoon, Yu Seol sips his tea, his gaze locked onto his monitor with laser-like focus. He's scrolling through the game forums. Suddenly, the community is blowing up over something wild. He clicks a thread and reads a flood of panicked comments. Apparently, a glitchy dragon just appeared. It just spawned and nuked my save data. My character is dead and I'm locked out of my account. What the heck? My account is gone. Yu Seol reads this, completely baffled by the chaos. A world-ending boss in a dating sim? Isn't this game supposed to end with a happy couple? He scrolls down further and spots a viral post that's catching everyone's attention. Listen up, this boss is literally unbeatable. This black magic dragon has a lethal, razor-sharp horn. It has 99% magic resistance, no cooldowns, and it keeps absorbing every single spell I throw at it. Plus, it's spamming magic back. How do we kill this thing? This has to be a major bug. Yu Seol recognizes the poster as a famous pro trickster. Intrigued, he sets down his cup. Now that's a final boss. He leans back, hand on his chin, analyzing the chaos. Something's definitely off here, he mutters. A magic-immune beast in a magic-based world? That's insane. Everyone's screaming about it being a glitch. Their characters are being erased. Just then, a massive notification pops up. The black magic dragon has arrived. The Dark Knight 13th Moon is here. Curious, Yu Seol dives back into the game's deep lore. Mythic World harbors a sinister cult called the Black Magic People. They want to let another dimension invade. They seek to let the Persona Gate dominate everything. Once they succeed, the Black Magic Dragon awakens. 90% of the continent will fall to the Persona Gate. Yu Seol reads this, stunned. His jaw drops. I've been so focused on PvP that I completely ignored the actual story. This is pure chaos. He frowns, thinking, wasn't I supposed to be avoiding this monster? Actually, let's give it a shot. He clicks the prompt. Will you challenge the Dark Magic Dragon? He doesn't hesitate, he hits yes. Time to show off what 10 years of grinding looks like. He says it with total confidence. Now, let's talk about his unique character build. He's the only one who can't use magic. In a world where everyone is a mage, he's the odd man out. Even the most hardcore veterans refuse to touch such a useless and broken character. Honestly, he's weaker than a random NPC. But there is one thing he can do. He possesses exactly one spell. Back in the game, the Dark Magic Dragon is currently charging a massive attack. A colossal fireball swells in its maw before it unleashes a devastating blast of pure destruction. The Inferno screams toward him at light speed. In this do-or-die moment, Yu Seol doesn't even flinch. He just smirks with pure arrogance. Instantly, he activates his god-tier blink skill to close the gap. He zips forward, slashing the dragon's throat. Blinking again and again, his teleportation becomes a blur of motion. Blink allows him to teleport between 3 and 10 meters instantly. But there's a catch, the location is totally random. One wrong move and the collision force will kill him instantly. It's a high-stakes gamble with every jump. The cooldown is insane, the mana cost is trash, and it leaves you frozen for 2 whole seconds. Nobody uses this garbage skill. But Yu Seol? He's in an entirely different league of mastery. He's mastered the art of controlling the direction and distance perfectly. It's literally a miracle of precision. He's found a way to bypass the immobilization penalty without using a single drop of mana. Yu Seol has 0 mana stats anyway. To him, blink isn't magic, it's pure, mechanical movement. He's obsessed with this underdog hero because it's all about raw, unadulterated skill, 10 years of perfection. Throughout his journey, he mained the only class that lacked magic. Suddenly, Baek Yu Seol lunged forward with explosive speed, tearing a massive gash through the dark demon dragon's face. He didn't stop there, cleanly bisecting the beast with one strike. It was an impossible feat. As he stood tall like a descending god, a flashing notification froze the air. Final boss of the Dark Moon episode defeated. Even the player himself, Baek Yu Seol, was left in total disbelief. He gasped, wait, what? I actually took down the Dark Demon Dragon? Sure, I'm decked out in rare legendary gear, but this character is literally trash. This is insane, but I'll take it. Time to flex this win on social media. He was ready to brag about slaying the dragon, but before he could post, his screen was flooded with glitching pop-ups. Red error warnings screamed across the monitor. The system calculated a 90% probability that the mythical world was collapsing. However, you have reached the threshold of the true ending. Reading those words, Yu Seol's breath hitched in his throat. Before he could process the chaos, another prompt materialized out of thin air. What was happening to his game? Please proceed to the true ending. Panic surged as he screamed, "Yo, what kind of glitch is this?" Suddenly, he vanished from his bedroom. When his eyes snapped open, a chilling, alien landscape lay before him. Yu Seol was sprawled on the cold earth. His head throbbed with a dizzying haze as he forced himself into a sitting position. "What's happening?" he groaned. His body shook violently as he panicked, scanning the unfamiliar, eerie room. A faint glimmer caught his eye. Following the light, he realized he was staring directly into a reflective mirror. He leaned in, peering closely at the glass. He couldn't wrap his head around the reflection staring back at him. It was a face he'd spent 10 years staring at the face of his in-game avatar, Baek Yu-sol. Before he could process the shift, a system prompt flickered. Episode 1. Escape the Pursuers. The hunt was on. Yu-seol froze. This was the character's literal prologue mission. Is this a dream? This can't be real life. Reaching into his pocket, his fingers brushed against an object that made his heart stop for a few beats. He pulled out a Stella trainee enrollment certificate. The cold hard truth hit him like a truck. Denial was no longer an option. He knew exactly where he was, the world of mythology. Guess I'm Baek Yu-seol now. This was no game. He buried his face in his hands, spiraling into despair. Think logically. That voice told me to find the true ending. But from a decade of playing, he knew this game had 0 official endings, just an endless cycle of possibilities. Panic flared in his eyes. Wait, has literally nobody ever unlocked the true ending in the last 10 years? Damn it. He didn't have a second to waste. In the game's script, the moment Yu-seol wakes up, black demons raid this house. Instincts kicked in as he rushed to the window to scout. Peeking through the glass, he saw a squad of hunters clad in midnight black, their eyes searching for prey. They prowled through the blizzard, screaming, "Where's that brat hiding? Find him now." He couldn't have gone far. Yu-seol ducked behind the door, heart hammering against his ribs. This is bad. They're already surrounding the place. Outside, a cultist with haunting white eyes caught a glimpse of movement. The hunters were closing in fast. "Hey, look, there's a shack up ahead," he yelled. "Let's tear it apart and drag him out." The group roared in agreement. Yu-seol knew he had to act now, or this would be a short story. But he was paralyzed with fear. He remembered there was a strict time limit to escape this encounter alive. He was alone and powerless to fight back. As he scrambled for a plan, his vision blurred with desperation. Suddenly, the system pinged. Skill available. Blink. Yu-seol blinked in confusion. Could he actually pull off magic? Afflicted with mana leakage syndrome, Yu-seol was a worthless mage who couldn't hold energy. He had only one hope. It was the single magic spell he had mastered over a lifetime of play, back in the freezing woods. The heavy snow buried the forest in a white shroud, isolating the ancient, creaking house from the world. He stared at the prompt. His blink was only level 1, with a pathetic range of just 9 meters. Is this system serious? How do I even use blink without a mouse and keyboard? He was totally lost. Outside, the Black Demon cult fanatics were sprinting toward the entrance like a pack of starving wolves. The thundering footsteps sent a jolt of pure terror through his spine. Crap, they're right outside the door. No more time for doubts. Fine, it's a total gamble, but let's see if this works. The door burst open. The cultist's eyes locked onto him with murderous rage. "Boss, I found him. Don't let the bastard escape. Seize him alive," the mob shrieked, their faces twisted in a desperate, lunging pursuit as they roared for him to halt. "Cut him off. Don't let him slip." Meanwhile, Baek Yu-seol sprinted for survival, facing the Blink tutorial's first lethal trial. Escaping on foot was a pipe dream. Those hunters wore enchanted boots, effortlessly shredding the distance between them. My only salvation? The Blink skill. I had to stay icy. I'd executed this move 1,000 times before. Mastering the frame-perfect timing was non-negotiable. Suddenly, the pack was on his heels, barking, "You little punk, why won't you just die?" Glancing back, a cold sweat broke out. Damn it, they were already right on top of him. But Blink carried a fatal flaw. One botched calculation of distance meant slamming into solid matter and instant game over. If it's me, though, I'll make it look easy. Baek Yu-seol gritted his teeth, pushing his muscles to the absolute limit. Just then, the Black Demon captain lunged forward, closing the gap. He unsheathed his blade with a bloodthirsty roar. "Go to hell, you worthless mutt. Rot there." In that heartbeat, Baek hovered on the razor's edge of annihilation. At the final microsecond, Baek triggered Blink and vanished. He felt a surge of pure adrenaline. Yes, it actually worked. The Black Demon squad stood frozen in total shock. What the hell? Was that Blink? Is this brat a high-tier mage? Seeing his men lose their cool, the leader snapped them back to reality. "Focus. Blink has a massive opening. The caster is paralyzed for 2 full seconds. That's our kill window. He glared toward Bake, ready to strike. His jaw dropped in disbelief. Wait, how is he still moving? On the other side, Bake was already deep into a full sprint. Focus, Bake. One slip, and it's over, he hissed, eyeing the jagged terrain ahead. I need these rocks to lose them. Failing to master Blink here meant a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Fact is, 99% of players using Bake UCL can't even clear the tutorial stage. Even the elite 1% who survive usually choke on the advanced mechanics. They never truly mastered distance control or chain blinking. Thinking fast, Bake began spamming the skill in rapid succession. He flickered across the battlefield like a ghost. The Black Demon cult watched, horrified. Blinking through those cliffs? He's insane. This kid was a total wildcard. The leader signaled his elite units. Mages, front and center. Target the brat. We're ending this from a distance. 3 sorcerers stepped forward, their eyes burning with a cold, murderous intent. The footsteps behind him stopped, and a new dread settled in Bake's gut. Great. Here come the spells. Phase 2 of the guide, dodging magic projectiles with Blink. In the game, this was light work. Having a third-person screen view made dodging a breeze, but in this reality, things were way more intense. System: Mona Lisa Syndrome deactivated. Sixth Sense and Accelerated Perception engaged. The moment the notification flashed, Bake felt the incoming magic arrows vibrating in the air, even without looking back. He danced through the lethal barrage with surgical precision, making the impossible look effortless. But the worst was yet to come. A massive, soul-chilling, cursed arrow tore through the sky toward him. Bake knew this was the ultimate Blink test. He vanished just as the projectile hit. A monstrous explosion erupted, sounding like a meteor had slammed into the earth. The shockwave hit like a physical wall. Bake collapsed to his knees, bracing himself against the trembling ground. As the suffocating dust began to settle, nothing remained of the landscape but a gargantuan, smoking crater. Gasping for air, Bake regained his composure. That was way too close. No time to breathe yet. I've got to move. He bolted forward, but his blood ran cold. Directly ahead lay a bottomless, yawning abyss that swallowed the light. One wrong step meant a permanent meeting with his ancestors. This was the make-or-break moment. The third and final trial, crossing the great void. The only way across was a frame-perfect blink mid-air. He had to time it perfectly to reach the far side where a group of passing mages could provide cover. That would signify the end of this hellish tutorial, but he had to manually cancel the spell's casting animation. The window for the rock hop was exactly 0.1 seconds. A single mistimed tap meant certain death. Damn it. 0.1 seconds is a nightmare in real life. His mind raced, calculating the impossible odds. What kind of psycho wrote the script for this tutorial? They're sick. Still, he knew there was a way. Success was hidden in the smallest details. Suddenly, the screams of the cultists echoed right behind him. There he is! Don't let him jump. The hunters had arrived, catching Bake at the edge of the world. He spun around, realizing they were closing in faster than he'd calculated. The gap was narrowing rapidly. They were roughly 100 meters away. With a 3-second cooldown, he was trapped between the blade and the abyss. Trapped with only one lethal option, Beak Usiel crouched behind a gnarled tree to plot his next move. This was pure insanity. How could he possibly survive another onslaught right after that brutal battle? In a game, the system would offer a reprieve, but reality has no mercy, and even fewer rules. He wasn't some puppet obeying a system. Taking a life didn't even faze him anymore, but not because they were his parents' sworn enemies like in some cliché plot. They arrived. Usiel gripped his blade tight. Defiance burned in his eyes as he prepared to hold the line. Bring it on. I'll bury you all. Moments later, the hunters closed in. Their leader's face was a mask of crimson rage as he roared. There's the brat. Don't let him slip away. Grab him now. At his command, the mob erupted. They charged like famished wolves. Yet, Usiel remained a statue of calm. One of the demons let out a sneer. You've got skills, kid, but fighting us alone? That's just suicidal. You're dead meat, brat. Usiel didn't blink. He calculated every breath, searching for an opening. Suddenly, it clicked. Target locked 8.7 meters. In a blur of motion, he triggered blink, vanishing instantly. The demon didn't even have time to scream before death arrived. Standing beside him, the leader froze. His eyes nearly popped out in shock. Meanwhile, Usiel's expression was cold, radiating a lethal, unshakable resolve. The impact was devastating. The sheer force sent a spray of crimson erupting from the man's mouth. Blood splattered across Usiel's skin, dripping from his fingertips. Yet, he felt absolutely zero remorse. It was their lives, or his. To survive, he had to be the monster. He delivered a bone-shattering strike. He followed up with a brutal kick, sending the man flying back into the dark horde. The group's fury reached a boiling point. Having thinned their ranks, Usiel immediately bolted into the woods. His blink ability needed time to recharge. He couldn't afford to be reckless while his best card was spent. "He's rabbiting! Don't let that bastard get away!" the leader screamed, his voice cracking with pure desperation. They were hot on his heels. Usiel gritted his teeth, knowing the next encounter wouldn't be this easy. What's the play? He wondered. Suddenly, the forest behind him went deathly silent. Had they given up? His heart sank as the group materialized directly in his path, blocking his only exit. Trapped with nowhere to run, a chilling thought crossed his mind. Were they using teleportation magic again? He needed an escape, and fast. Across from him, the lead demon's lips curled into a sinister grin. "End him," he hissed. Instantly, the air crackled as a twisted magical energy surged forward. A massive, searing bolt of light hurtled toward Usiel. Every nerve in his body screamed in warning. It wasn't just one, a volley of magical missiles rained down. He was cornered with no way out. "Damned mages," he hissed. But then, a spark of inspiration hit. "Wait, I've got a way." He spotted a lone branch jutting from a nearby cliffside. With his life on the line, he triggered Blink. He lunged toward the branch just as a colossal explosion tore through the clearing behind him. Boom! The ground groaned under the force, sending a massive cloud of suffocating dust into the air. One of the dark demons chuckled, savoring the carnage. That should have turned that brat into paste, but his smug grin vanished instantly. As the smoke cleared, the crater was empty. No body, no blood. "Where did he go?" he stammered. While they searched the ruins, Usiel hadn't just survived. He had used the chaos to blink again, reappearing right in front of the boss's face. Their eyes locked for a fraction of a second. The blink technique preserved his momentum perfectly. Without missing a beat, he warped forward once more, delivering a strike of absolute ferocity. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the woods. The remaining demons stood paralyzed in total shock. What just happened? But Usiel wasn't done. Plunging his blade even deeper into his target, the boss coughed up blood and collapsed. How did a kid possess such terrifyingly brutal magic? After finishing the pair, Usiel was running on empty. He was absolutely spent. Drenched in the blood of his enemies, he realized he had no time to rest. "I need to vanish before they recover," he muttered. The scarred man gasped. "This freak, a mage with god-tier reflexes? Just who are you?" The question echoed as Beck Usiel analyzed his next move. "My instincts outclass every pro player back home, but that was just pixels. In this reality, dodging forever isn't an option. This distance is lethal. I need to end them now." With a surge of adrenaline, he lunged straight into the fray. The scarred thug narrowed his eyes, shouting, "I've seen this before. This brat's just spamming blink and a basic dagger. Keep the vitals covered and he's harmless," he muttered, tightening his grip on his blade in a defensive stance. "Bring it on, kid," he taunted, before barking orders to his men to lock down the perimeter. As Beck flickered through the air like a ghost, the scarred leader unleashed a devastating wave of raw energy. Smirking with pure arrogance, he thought, "Gotcha. There's no escaping this time, you little rat. Scream for me." But his victory lap was cut short by a sight that chilled his very soul. Unscathed, Beak blurred past him, his blade whistling through the air as he cleanly decapitated a nearby henchman. Shaking with pure terror, the leader shrieked, "Impossible! You were just a pathetic coward hiding in the shadows. Now you have teeth?" Drenched in crimson, Beak stared back with dead eyes and gave a chilling, "Correct. That version of me is dead. Honestly, I should thank you, trash, for forcing me to evolve." "You arrogant piece of trash," the thug spat. "We were just playing with our food before. No more. Die." As the shout rang out, Beak advanced, each step heavy with the weight of cold-blooded intent. With a ferocious glare, he launched his spear. The scarred man tracked the projectile, calculating Beak's hidden play. "He is throwing the spear as a distraction to blink behind me, right? A classic, predictable amateur move. Nice try, kid. Not today," he sneered, as the steel tip whistled inches from his nose. With a casual flick of his wrist, he sliced the spear mid-air, a smug grin spreading across his face. He prepared to spin and crush the boy's skull, but his combat instincts had failed him completely. His body locked up. Wah? A sudden, agonizing shock tore through him, twisting his features into a mask of pain. BQ hadn't teleported. He was right there in front, driving his blade through the man's heart with savage force. Gasping for air, the thug's mind reeled. A frontal assault? He planned this, from the very start. The first chapter of his survival concluded in blood. Suddenly, a blue system window flickered into existence. Notification. Bonus experience earned. The Constellation Project has granted a special reward for your original narrative development. BQ collapsed, the adrenaline fading as his lungs burned and his breath came in ragged, desperate gasps. He stared at his crimson-soaked palms, his mind racing. Was this another cliché transmigration trope, or a nightmare? Most think it is a dream initially, just another hero lost in a fantasy world. A vivid dream, he hoped. But the metallic scent of blood and the echoing screams felt terrifyingly real. This was his debut, his first blink, his first war, and his first time taking a human life. He was a murderer now, all for the sake of survival. Trembling, Beak rose and dusted off his ruined attire. Staring down the winding path, he realized staying put meant certain death. He had to keep moving forward. A realization hit him. He paused, casting a lingering glance back at the corpses of his fallen attackers. Hesitation flickered in his eyes, shadowed by a brief moment of guilt, before he finally knelt down. He began looting their pockets with frantic efficiency. It felt low, but pride does not put food on the table. Survival required being a realist. He was completely broke in a world that showed no mercy to the poor. His fingers brushed against a heavy pouch. Jackpot. Was this worth 200 million or even more? A small victory in a tragic situation. However, his relief vanished as a new, larger problem loomed ahead. He looked ahead and felt his heart sink. A massive, vertical drop blocked his path. One slip meant oblivion. One wrong step would end his story permanently. Teetering on the brink, Beck searched for a way across. How could he possibly bridge this gap? Then, a distant shout echoed from the far side of the chasm. Is someone there? Voices. He spotted a small party across the ravine and began waving his arms frantically. Over here! Help me! He froze. These people matched the description of the legendary mages from the guide. The tutorial was coming to life. I am right here. Do not leave me, he screamed at the top of his lungs. A voice drifted back across the void. There is no bridge, kid. How do you expect to make it over? Byukyu Usiel smirked. Understood. I'm moving out. Catching his signal, the girl hurried to alert the rest of the squad. Hold up. Let's wait. He claims he can make the jump, she said. Beside her, the blue-haired youth simply scoffed. He voiced his skepticism. This ravine is no joke. Only a third-rank knight or higher could clear this gap. Can some random kid actually pull it off? The girl sighed. Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. Mid-sentence, her jaw dropped in pure shock. He was already airborne, dancing across the jagged peaks with terrifying grace. The group watched, breathless and paralyzed with tension. BQCL was locked in, every nerve focused on the void. Navigating the treacherous terrain one leap at a time, he blurred forward like a bolt of jagged, soaring lightning. Stunned silence gripped the party. What in the world? What kind of movement technique is that? Someone finally gasped. Is that blink magic? Behind them, a green-haired girl spoke up, her voice cold and certain. That's definitely blink. She looked small and unassuming, almost cute. On the edge, the purple-haired girl whipped around to look at her. Looking from the child back to Beak, she shook her head. No way. Is that actually blink? She questioned. Normal blink doesn't allow that surgical precision and range. He looks way too composed for this to be basic. From the outside, he looked like a pro. But internally, Beak UCL was fighting a desperate, uphill battle. Suddenly, the purple-haired girl's eyes went wide. Who the hell are those two? She stammered, pointing frantically. Are they with him? Across the chasm, two figures shrouded in black silhouettes emerged from the thick mist. Before anyone could react, one of the intruders raised a gnarled staff, channeling a dark, ominous energy into it. Sinister orange mana began spiraling outward. He leveled his aim, manifesting a lethal magic circle right in the air. He unleashed the spell directly at Beak. Look out! Behind you! A desperate scream echoed through the canyon. BQ felt a wave of murderous intent crashing toward him. Damn it! Not now! He hissed, his skin crawling. At the final microsecond, he warped away. A massive explosion erupted exactly where he had been standing. Boom! Dust and debris choked the air. Beak twisted around, searching for the source of the cowardly ambush. As the smoke thinned, the black-clad mercenaries were revealed. So, those bastards from earlier are still kicking, he realized. They were back for blood. His blink was on a 3-second cooldown. Dodging the next volley was impossible. I need a foothold, fast. Just then, his heart sank. The mages were not giving him a second to breathe. The dark casters instantly ignited a follow-up spell, weaving a lethal bolt of energy straight for his chest. Beak threw his body sideways, narrowly avoiding the blast, but the real nightmare was only just beginning. The precarious rock beneath his boots suddenly splintered. He scrambled for balance, but the stone gave way completely. He plummeted backward into the abyss. Even as gravity dragged him down, he refused to let go of life. Live, I have to live, he roared internally. But the floating platforms were drifting hopelessly out of his reach. Clinging to a shred of hope, his eyes frantically scanned the void until he spotted a single, jagged ledge. Luck had not abandoned him just yet. As his cooldown reset, he burned his mana to blink toward the stone. His fingers clawed into the rock, barely hanging on. Gasping for air, He looked back over his shoulder. Did I actually make it? The relief was short-lived as a terrifying orange glow illuminated the darkness behind him. Death felt inevitable. As he stared into the coming blast, completely drained, a brilliant blue light cut the air. The two forces collided with a violent roar. Ice and fire locked in a deadly, shimmering struggle. Boom! The shockwave rippled through the canyon, the overwhelming pressure threatening to blow him off the wall. He held on with everything he had. Finally, the chaos settled, and the heavy silence returned to the abyss. Through the settling dust, BQ realized he was still breathing. The protagonist doesn't go down that easy, he joked. He blinked in disbelief. What kind of magic was that? Frost shards infused with actual lightning? To merge two elements so perfectly while moving, the accuracy and trajectory were nothing short of god tier. Not a single drop of mana was wasted. Behind him, the crowd stood in a state of total shock. Their eyes were glued to the green-haired girl. Her expression remained icy, devoid of even a hint of emotion. The atmosphere grew heavy as the others paled. No way. She is the one who pulled off that miracle? On the opposite side, the mercenaries realized they were outclassed. Without a word, they turned and vanished. Beak UCL watched their retreat, his gaze lingering on the shadows where his would-be killers had stood. A heavy sigh escaped his lips, thank the gods he was still breathing. He finally managed to cross over to safety. While the crowd offered a warm welcome, the girl with emerald hair remained cold, turning her back and walking away. Seeing her leave, Baekyu Sol rushed over, his voice filled with gratitude. Hey, seriously, thanks for saving my life back there. She threw a frigid glance over her shoulder. I didn't do it for your gratitude. Don't waste your breath on me. With those biting words, she vanished. Baekyu Sol stood there, feeling totally rejected. All right then, he muttered, watching her leave. He couldn't help but find her intriguing. Despite her icy demeanor, her voice was the most charming melody he'd ever heard. She was definitely a tough nut to crack. But those bandits had it coming. They'd spent too long terrorizing and looting the village. It was pure karma. Most of those brutal raids were actually the handiwork of the notorious dark magic cult. But their reign of terror stops here. I've just survived the most narrow escape of my life after scaling this massive cliff. I've finally entered the mage's domain. In this sacred territory, those dark magic cult freaks won't dare to hunt me anymore. He let out a weary breath. Those dogs have no clue who they're messing with. Suddenly, a holographic system window flickered. Episode 2, Admission into Stella Academy. Reading the glowing text, his eyes nearly popped out of his head in shock. Episode 2 already? It sounded promising, but then reality hit. Damn it, how am I supposed to survive school at my age? The group boarded their transport, setting off for the legendary Stella Academy, as the velvet curtain of night draped the world. They traveled through a ghostly, silent landscape, where the only rhythm was the steady, rhythmic clatter of carriage wheels. Exhaustion finally claimed Baekyu Seol, and he drifted into a heavy slumber. But soon, strange, muffled whimpers escaped his lips. You, please. He was trapped in a trance, spiraling deep into a dream where fragments of a forgotten past resurfaced. An adorable young boy appeared, tugging at his mother's sleeve and shouting with pure joy. Mom, look, Mom. His mother offered a tender smile. My sweet boy, one day you'll be a grand mage. I believe in you, Yusol. Yet her old diaries told a story of sacrifice. Back then, young Yusol had vowed to study until his eyes burned. He wanted nothing more than to bring them pride. Often, he'd collapse into sleep at his desk after pulling an all-nighter. His mother would always tenderly tuck him in, but their world shattered the day a doctor delivered a devastating medical prognosis. Doctor, did you say mana leakage syndrome? His mother's voice trembled. Yusol was crushed, his heart screaming out in denial. No, it's not true, he sobbed, tears blurring his vision. But a chilling thought surfaced. Was this Yusol's memory, or his own? Baekyu Sol snapped awake, his heart hammering. His head throbbed with a dizzying haze as he clutched his temples in pain. Glancing out the window, he saw the morning sun crowning the horizon. A fellow passenger noticed his distress and leaned in. Whoa, you're finally awake. That must have been one hell of a nightmare. You were mumbling complete gibberish the whole time. I was just about to shake you. Suddenly, a loud voice announced from outside. Prepare yourselves. We're departing for Liswicha shortly. The gateway to Arcanium is just ahead. The carriage slowed to a halt as another shout echoed through the crisp morning air. Break time, everyone. The travelers scrambled out to stretch. Baekyu Sol groaned, his body feeling like a total bruised mess. He reached for the sky, letting out a long stretch, when something caught his eye. His pupils dilated in pure surprise. The girl with the sapphire hair was staring right at him. Catching her eye, he started to lift his hand for a wave. But before he could even blink, she snapped her head away and marched off, leaving him hanging in awkward silence. He managed a pained smile. Talk about an ice queen. Still, things were looking up compared to the disaster he'd expected. He felt a wave of relief, seeing this world wasn't stuck in the Dark Ages, but leaned more toward a modern aesthetic. While magic ruled the wilds, the safe havens boasted high-tech trains, massive aircraft, and shimmering celestial highways for travel. Crossing continents was a breeze thanks to these marvels. Their next leg of the journey to Liswicha was via modern airship. Liswicha was just the appetizer before the main course. Arcanium, the city of miracles. That's where the real legend finally begins. Home to the magic spires and the elite academies, Arcanium was the absolute heart of the wizarding world. Standing at the top of that food chain was Stella Academy, a playground for the world's most brilliant geniuses and nobles. But a massive question mark loomed in his mind. How on earth did the character he transmigrated into enter this school? It made zero sense. Then it hit him. He hadn't even checked his own stats yet. With a frantic thought, he checked. He summoned his system interface. A blue screen flickered. Mana leakage syndrome, level 1. Strength buffed by 3%. Speed boosted by 5%. And agility up by 10. His special trait, Sixth Sense, drained spirit energy to stay active. It granted him a 12-meter mana radar for instant detection. It would trigger automatically the moment danger reared its ugly head. Scanning the blue interface, he thanked his lucky stars for Bake Uziel's broken skills, Sixth Sense, and quick scouting. He'd be dead meat without them. His cursed force physique meant his body was a sieve for mana. Mana leakage syndrome was a lifelong curse, yet it granted him the unique ability to feel every mana pulse nearby. With Sixth Sense, he could dodge lethal strikes coming from his blind spots like he had eyes in his back. When danger strikes, time slows to a crawl, letting him perceive every incoming threat in hyper-vivid slow motion. His reflexes transcend human limits, a crucial survival tool since mana is off-limits to his cursed body. But power comes with a price. Redlining his Sixth Sense drains his mental stamina at an alarming rate. Pushing it too far spells disaster. Digesting this, UCL swiped the screen to reveal his raw power statistics. Strength, 1 star at 59%. Sharpness, 1 star at 97. Speed, 1 star at 81%. Stamina, 51%. Unyielding, 97. Mental energy, 43. Mana, empty. Blink skill, level 0. Mana leakage characteristic, level 1. Scrutinizing the data, a spark of realization flashed in his eyes. Honestly, these starter stats aren't half bad. UCL's abysmal sharpness would finally reach its true potential under his control. He had to grind, period. In this reality, levels applied to everything, not just the player. Skills are ranked by levels, attributes by stars. Reaching the legendary 9-star peak is considered a total myth. Despite 10 years of grinding, my peak was only 8 stars in stamina and sharpness. I need to dump points into sharpness to overclock my Sixth Sense. I can buff stamina and speed later. There are other ways to buff stats, but this mana leakage, if I don't fix it, I'm a walking corpse. I must evolve fast to uncover the true body. Stella Academy is the only place to suppress this syndrome. There's no other choice. If I want to stop the world's end and cure myself, I'm going. Uziel let out a weary sigh. Real talk, I'd rather be anywhere else but that academy. Someone rescue me from this nightmare. Suddenly, a chime rang out. You have unread notifications. Wait, I never noticed this, he blinked. But before he could check, a loud, impatient voice cut in. Move it, you brats. Get a move on. UCL was forced to put the notifications on the back burner. The blue-haired girl kept her eyes locked on him, radiating a chilling, silent pressure. A colossal, cutting-edge airship hovered before them. The crowd pulsed with raw excitement and nervous energy. Suddenly, the intercom crackled to life. Attention passengers, we are now descending toward Arcanium. Please remain in your seats. Suddenly, someone spotted a figure and gasped in pure shock. A mocking sneer followed. Yo, look at this loser gawking around like a little kid. Is it his first time on a ship? Hilarious. Their target was clearly Bake Uziel. He was too busy soaking in the unfamiliar sights to care about their obnoxious chatter. Total country bumpkin. Why does Stella even admit such low-tier trash these days? The insults reached Uziel's ears clear as day. He shifted his gaze toward the loudmouths. They weren't done. They kept spitting venom, claiming this guy's pathetic appearance would go viral. Trash like him ruins the vibe. He stared for a second, then simply shrugged off their mockery. He let out a weary sigh and turned away, leaving the bullies stunned by his total indifference. They're just bratty kids. I won't stoop to their level. His icy, unbothered vibe was a total slap. Triggered and red-faced, the rich brat barked, Hey, you looking for a fight? Don't ignore me. Gritting his teeth, the brat snarled, You little bastard, you better stay right where you are. Suddenly, a calm voice sliced through the tension. What's with all this pathetic shouting? He jumped, spinning toward the source. His eyes nearly popped out of his head in pure shock. A long-haired silhouette emerged in the distance. He began to tremble, stammering, "P. Princess Hong Bian?" UCL turned, puzzled. Did he say, Bian? Truly, a literal princess was standing right before them. She was breathtakingly beautiful, radiating a lethal, icy pride. Princess Hong Bian of the Adelheid Kingdom. Without a word, she glided past the stunned crowd with an aloof, regal indifference. The rich brat's ego vanished instantly. He bowed deeply, greeting her with a forced, polite smile. Before he could utter a word, the princess shot him a gaze as sharp as ice and swept past, completely dismissing his existence. Frozen in place, he stood there, slack-jawed and humiliated while she vanished into the shadows with chilling indifference. The crowd stood paralyzed in awkward silence as she brushed past Baekyu Sol, her aura radiating a freezing distance. A sudden realization hit him: she was this world's ultimate antagonist. In the original lore, Isel was a cornerstone of the game's narrative. Constantly clashing with the main heroine, Isel was a character doomed to perish, no matter the path a player chose. Her fate was a revolving door of tragedies, ending in either a brutal death or a desperate choice to escape the Academy's relentless bullying. She endured every humiliation imaginable, almost as if the game developers took a twisted pleasure in her eternal suffering. He fell silent, memories surfacing of just how infamous this Ice Queen had been among the hardcore player community. Her beauty was ethereal, yet so lethally sharp it felt like a blade to the throat of anyone foolish enough to speak to her. Suddenly, a loud growl erupted from his stomach. Rubbing his belly, he realized survival started with finding a decent meal. Scouting the second floor, his eyes landed on a stall overflowing with rows of shimmering, high-end pastries. He snatched one up, but his heart nearly stopped at the price tag. Are these made of gold? He wondered, yet hunger won. Shrugging off the cost, he devoured the treat, only to step out feeling like a man who had just watched his life savings vanish. Damn it, he cursed internally. Arcanium prices are a total scam. I am officially broke before the story even begins. Just then, the announcement speaker crackled to life, announcing their final approach to Arcanium in a mere 10 minutes. All passengers were directed to the lower deck immediately. The countdown to their arrival had officially begun. A sharp grin spread across Baekhyuseol's face as he heard the news. Finally, he whispered, the wait was over. The real game was starting, and this world was now his reality. Let us show them what I have got, he shouted, fired up. As they touched down at Stella Academy, the massive, unfamiliar crowds made Baekhyusol feel like a complete anomaly. He took a steadying breath, relieved to have shaken off the immediate threat of the deadly Dark Demon sect. They had lost his trail, but the real question remained, could he actually survive the brutal cutthroat environment of this new world? He desperately needed an edge. That is when it clicked. He had been ignoring the flashing system notifications this whole time. Pulling up the interface, a prompt gleamed. The Stellar Project offers you a legendary starting bonus. Option 1. A low-tier legacy weapon. Option 2. A weakened version of a high-level skill he once mastered. Or Option 3. Raw experience points. He smirked, thinking the system actually had a shred of decency for once. He weighed his choices carefully. Should he risk it all on the flashlight reflection for that early game utility? Sensing his greed, the system countered instantly. Rank too high. Equipment will be severely downgraded upon selection. Unfazed, he pushed further. Fine, then what about the legendary Super Blink? Give me some real mobility. The system denied him again, stating Super Blink was an advanced evolution far beyond his current novice reach. Instead, it offered to buff his basic Blink skill. He stood there, jaw dropped at the system's stingy logic. He mentally trashed the interface, fuming over why every good thing had to be nerfed into the ground. The system countered his saltiness, explaining that a lack of narrative energy prevented full item manifestation. Narrative energy? He questioned, confused. The system clarified it was the raw power that dictated the world's fate. By uncovering hidden lore and secret episodes, he could farm this energy. Until then, he was stuck in the tutorial. Basically, as a level 1 novice, he was not allowed to carry god-tier items that would break the story's balance. After a tense silence, he tried one last shot. What about the crest goggles? They are just for info, right? Finally, the system greenlit the request, providing crest goggles. He sighed, fine, I will take whatever I can get. Materializing out of thin air, the goggles landed in his palm. He stared at them with a look of pure discouragement. He never imagined he would actually have to wear these dorky things in real life just to stay one step ahead. These were not just glasses, they were a massive database containing every secret players had ever uncovered in this world. In this hyper-realistic fantasy realm, recalling every monster weakness or lore detail from memory was impossible. Information storage items were lifesavers, and Baekhyusol had poured everything he knew into these specific goggles. He slid them on, and a surge of neon blue light pulsed from the lenses as they synced with his consciousness. A status popped up, Crest Goggles description. Unknown. Current sync level. Lower than your memory of last night's dinner. No matter, he muttered. Despite the snarky rank, the sealed crest directory was active, ready to reveal the world's secrets. With a sharp mental flicker, he navigated the system's hidden directories. A new screen erupted with data, alchemy recipes, prime hunting zones, and lethal dungeons. Scanning his current status, a smirk touched his lips. This world's hyper-realism was as impressive as it was terrifying. Honestly, I'm still gauging my limits, but combining this system with these specialized spectacles is a total game changer. I can instantly replenish half of my exhausted mana reserves. Suddenly, sharp whispers cut through the air behind him. Wait, is that really Azel, the disgraced daughter of that traitor, Duke Malf? How does she have the nerve to show up? Shh, keep it down before she hears you. Beak UCL froze. That name sounded way too familiar to be a coincidence. Azel, huh? Now that's interesting. One of the perks of the Crown's View skill is coming in clutch right now. It allows me to deep scan any character tied to the main plot. Let's see what she's really hiding behind that mask. Instantly, a holographic status window flickered to life. Name, Azel Malf. Class, Fake Hero and Ice Lightning Archmage. Weird quirk, she chugs pickle juice before every pizza night. Once a noble, her father's execution sent her house into a tailspin. The ultimate flag? She's scripted to die. Beak Usiel watched her silently. So, she's just a sacrificial pawn in this story. There is something crucial about her fake hero status, though. Even though I'm trapped in a mythological game world, the core narrative is actually ripped from a cliché romance novel titled Don't Love the Princess. That book followed the tragic life of Azel. She lost everyone she loved and grew strong only to dismantle a massive conspiracy. The novel ended with her finding love and abandoning her vengeance for a generic happy ending with the male lead. Despite the reverse harem of protective guys, fans absolutely hated the bittersweet finale. It was a total controversy online. But here is the problem. While the game uses the novel's setting, the actual plot has been completely rewritten. A new character named Flame was inserted, effectively hijacking the heroine's role. Now, Flame is the one driving the story. Flame was originally a modern girl who obsessed over the novel before getting reincarnated here. She knows all the secrets. In this version, Azel was demoted to a fake hero, while Flame became the world's true protagonist. No matter how hard players grind, Azel is programmed to meet a tragic end in every single scenario. She was basically deleted from the hero's seat, but honestly, that's none of my business right now. Still, I can't shake this weird feeling of déjà vu. Have I met her somewhere? Probably just my imagination acting up. It's time to face the music. After one chaotic, storm-tossed night, a fresh dawn finally broke over the horizon. Dazzling sunlight bathed Stella Academy, as students stood in perfect formation, their crisp uniforms gleaming during the assembly. The principal's voice boomed across the hall. As you know, dark mages are essentially witches' corrupted souls who sold out to other worlds. They've mutated into monsters, launching invasions through persona gates, and unsealing ancient dungeons to conquer our realm. As mages, it is our sacred burden to shield this world from the encroaching tides of evil. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Great, a new chapter starting with a totally generic, mid-tier speech. Seriously, this is a total snooze fest. But the principal kept droning on until the main event finally arrived. We will now begin the oath-taking ceremony for the 4 elite freshmen, representing our newest class. Top scorers, please take the stage. One by one, the Academy's golden children stepped forward, all looking like high-fashion models. They practically radiated main character energy. Beak Uciel watched them, thinking they looked like they were born for the spotlight. But even among these elites, one guy was on a completely different level. He was the real deal. The principal's voice rang out with pride. Freshman representative and top of his class, Ma Yu-sung, please step forward. The girls in the audience were literally gasping. The guy had the highest entrance scores, insane talent, and top-tier visuals. Beak Uciel tracked his movement. So, this is the legendary Ma Yu-sung I've heard so much about. In the game lore, Ma Yu-sung is the definition of Soleil Supreme, the one who stands above all creation. With a 9-star mana rating and potential that rivals the gods, he's a literal freak of nature. He can manipulate every single element. To avoid a game over, I have to pull him onto my side. And that cute girl with the short hair? That has to be Flame. Beak Uciel's mind went into overdrive. Everything hinges on her next move. Since we're both isekai survivors, teaming up might be my best bet. But what if she flags me as an enemy and shuts me out? Things could get messy fast. Regardless, I have the information advantage. Flame might know the romance, but I know the hardcore mechanics of this world. I'll play my part and survive this scripted nightmare, even if it kills me. She's on a whole different level from any low-tier villain. Plus, the heroine Flame wields the unique power to cleanse dark demons. But there's a catch. She's a total bad luck magnet for everyone nearby. Staying close to her is basically asking for a disaster. My mission? Back up the leads from the shadows while keeping my distance. As I was mapping out my plan, Ma Yusong wrapped up his speech. The crowd erupted in thunderous applause just as the principal took the mic. I officially declare this entrance ceremony closed. But the moment the celebration ended, a system ping echoed in his mind. Congrats. Episode 2 cleared. Welcome to Stella Academy. Once the formalities finished, the students were herded into a massive lecture hall to claim their seats. Baek Yu-sol felt a wave of existential dread, remembering he'd actually finished college ages ago in his past life. Now, he was stuck back in high school. It felt bizarre and totally alien, but he tried to stay positive. At least this world had some cool perks. He gripped the sleek timepiece in his palm, realizing how valuable it truly was. The Stella Watch, the ultimate status symbol of the world's elite academy. Owning one meant VIP treatment and insane benefits that regular mages could only dream of. Grinning like a thief, he tucked the watch away, already feeling like a high roller. Time to milk this for all it's worth. Suddenly, the door swung open as a man with a gaze like ice stepped in. He marched to the podium and barked, "Eyes front, everyone stay seated. Your first exam starts. Now, clear your desks of everything but a pen. And if you're wearing glasses, they need my personal inspection." Baek's jaw dropped. Are you kidding me? The ceremony literally just ended and we're already testing? Stella's curriculum makes Harvard look like daycare. Day 1, and they're already throwing students into the fire. It was a brutal placement exam to rank every freshman. As the papers were handed out, tension filled the room. The instructor shouted from the front, "Listen up, you have exactly 45 minutes. No more, no less. Timer starts now." For a veteran player who'd lived through this lore, Baek Yu-sol stared at the questions in pure horror. Knowing the plot didn't make these insane problems any easier. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Crap, I can't even decode the first sentence of the reading. This was a nightmare. These placement tests were on a completely different level of difficulty compared to the entrance exams. They were infamous for being soul-crushing. One wrong move, and you're stuck in Class F, while the elites take Class S. While the main cast chilled in S rank, Baek was currently dead last out of over 1,100 students. He stared at the blank page, tempted to give up. I'm already in. Would a 0 really kill me? They won't kick me out, right? Maybe I'll just volunteer for the bottom tier. He scanned the room. Everyone was scribbling furiously except for Ma Yusong, who sat there looking bored. The genius was just resting his chin on his hand, lost in thought. Baek felt a sting of pathetic self-pity. Wait, is he done already? No wonder he looks like he's lost all hope in humanity. In the game, Yusong was the Prince of Despair, born with a god-tier mind into the world's most powerful bloodline. To him, everything was a cakewalk. He's a wild card, whose morality shifts depending on the heroine's influence. Every psycho in the Dark Demon cult has their sights set on corrupting him to destroy mankind. But his twisted family is the real threat. Seeing a monster like him just made Baek feel even more useless. Then it hit him. Duh, why am I suffering? I've got my blink glasses. I used them to farm skills before. Those library-hacked skills were perfect for this. It was a gamble, but he had nothing left to lose. He slowly pulled the specs from his pocket, but the proctor's sharp eyes caught his suspicious movement instantly. The instructor loomed over him. Hold it. What's the deal with those glasses? Didn't I say that I needed to inspect all eyewear first? Hand them over. Baek's heart nearly stopped. Crap, I totally blanked on that rule. Panicked, he surrendered the gear. The instructor scrutinized the frames. Every second felt like an eternity. Baek was drenched in cold sweat. I'm cooked. This is it. If the teacher detected the hidden magic, it would be an immediate expulsion. He looked toward the ceiling, begging for a miracle. Then, the system glitched. Warning, missing component of blink glasses detected nearby. Would you like to initiate a summon? Baek nearly had a heart attack. No, not now, you stupid system. Freeze, system. The proctor's mana swept over his glasses, searching for a cheat, but the scan came up clean. Tossing them back, the instructor muttered, "No mana detected. Next time, ask before pulling a stunt like that." Startled, Baek Yusil bowed quickly. "Yes, sir." Inside, he was throwing a literal victory party. Close call. If the system's true power had flared up, he'd be cooked. He slid the frames on, looking suspiciously smart. Instantly, golden answers materialized in his vision. Beck smirked, scribbling down the solutions like a total pro. I hit the motherlode, he thought. Top of the class? Why not? F rank is officially in the rearview mirror. Maybe I'll even hit A rank. But just as he was vibing, the proctor's voice shattered his focus. Pencils down. Time's up. The command echoed through the hall. The moment the words left his mouth, mana surged as the papers flew toward the front. No extra marks allowed. Beck watched his sheet soar away. His face fell. Dang it, only finished 3? Right then, the atmosphere shifted. The instructor flicked through the pile. Suddenly, his eyes nearly popped out of his head in pure shock. Beck sat there, sulking. He'd hoped to ditch his F-rank status, but maybe he'd aimed a bit too high. The second he removed his glasses, the teacher's head snapped toward him. "You! Over there! Hand over those glasses. Now!" Beak's soul nearly left his body. "What? Why?" "Yes, sir. Right away." The man inspected the frames, brow furrowing. "Impossible." He pointed at a student. "Go fetch Dr. Graven. Immediately." As the student ran off, Beck panicked. What was this guy's problem? Did he mess up already? He'd tried to look natural, but now his entire plan was crashing and burning. Am I caught? Moments later, in a private office, the teacher's voice trembled with urgency. "Doctor, look at this." Peering through a lens was the Academy's legendary necromancy specialist, the formidable Dr. Graven. Graven hummed. Getting this specific question right, it's highly irregular for a student like him. "So, he cheated?" the teacher pressed. The doctor chuckled. "Cheating? Not even close. There isn't a trace of dark energy or mana interference here. This is his own doing. It's pure talent." Sensing an opening, Beak faked a limp, putting on his best innocent victim face. The doctor barked a laugh, slapping Beak's back. "Ha! Now this is a development I didn't expect. To see such a rarity in my old age. Professor Lee Han-wol, you owe this boy an apology." The teacher flushed. "Ah, yes, sir." He cleared his throat awkwardly and turned toward Beak, looking totally humbled. "I misjudged you. My apologies." Beak just flashed a sweet, totally fake smile. "I definitely cheated, old man," he smirked internally. "If that system goes live, I'm toast. Don't sweat it, Professor." Later, in Han-wol's office, the staff gathered to finalize the grades. The faculty was grinding through the pile, but one particular paper brought everything to a screeching halt. Han-wol clutched the sheet, staring at the answers like he'd just seen a ghost. "Professor Han-wol, is that the first-year evaluation?" A sharp voice interrupted his shock. "Indeed," he replied. The newcomer beamed. "I heard this year's crop of rookies is absolutely insane. Meet Edel Taimon, a high-ranking Stella Academy Council member." Han-wol nodded in agreement. "Spot on. We've got some legendary bloodlines walking the halls this semester. From Princess Bion of the Fire Nation to the ruthless heir of the Scalvan Empire, Jeremy Scalvan, the prodigy who crushed his older brothers for the throne at age 12 using pure magic. And let's not forget the successor of the Full Moon Tower, Hee-won Ryong's own protege." Edel's eyes sparkled. "Designing exams for these monsters must be a nightmare. Handling these high-tier families is no joke. Things are about to get very spicy. Your satisfaction is my priority." Han-wol bowed. He'd structured this test to be a total trap. The first 3 questions aren't just hard, they're impossible for any normal student to crack. They're mental traps designed to test raw instinct. We need to see who can actually adapt. Can they handle the unknown? Because the days of just memorizing textbooks are officially over. We live in an era where split-second instincts and raw creativity rule the battlefield. Yet that specific question, it defied all logic. Out of 1,141 students, over 1,000 handed in hauntingly empty pages. The few brave souls who actually tried, not a single one found the truth. In the entire freshman class, only 3 elite minds pierced the mystery. First, Ma Yusheng, a once-in-a-century prodigy who burst onto the scene like a stray comet with no origin story. Then there was Flame, the principal's personal protege. Despite her humble roots, her raw power trailed just inches behind Yusheng. And lastly, Baek Yu-sol, a total nobody with 0 street cred. While Yusheng and Flame being labeled geniuses was expected, Yu-seol's entrance scores were bottom tier. Yet, against all odds, he crushed the 3 deadliest questions on the exam. What's weirder? He didn't even touch the rest of the test. Blank. Just like that. The professor nearby watched Lee Han-wol's stunned silence. "Something wrong? That kid's score caught your eye, huh?" Han-wol stammered. "Oh, well, I can't make sense of these numbers." The elder shifted her gaze. "Ah, I see. It's understandable. Those complex formulas? They're practically useless here. The students do not even recognize them. And yet, the answers are right there." "Is he a genius?" Han-wol pressed. The elder's voice remained cold. Could just be a fluke. She walked away without a second look, leaving Han-wol lost in a cloud of confusion. Sinking into a deep sigh, the instructor dug through the admission files until a strange note caught his eye. It mentioned a special entry based on an insane mastery of Blink. Finally, the puzzle pieces started clicking for Han-wol. No wonder the principal personally pulled strings for this one. But focusing purely on Blink for combat magic? That's a wild gamble. Soon enough, we'll see if this kid is a miracle or just a lucky fraud. Once the dust settled on the exams, the academy began sorting the sheep from the wolves based on their scores. The hallways buzzed with nervous energy as everyone rushed to find their names. The air was thick with desperate whispers. The list is up on the bulletin board. My heart is literally pounding out of my chest right now. If I am not in Class A, I am basically disowned. Behind the chaos, Baekyu Seol dragged his feet, feeling the weight of the world. He could not believe he was actually doing this, manually checking a board like some side character in a drama. In his past life, a single click revealed everything. Now, he had to face the crowd and the board. Suddenly, a guy in a blue shirt started glaring at him like he was some kind of freakish glitch in the system. The gossip mill started immediately. Wait, is that you, Sol? Did not he pull a total 0 on the practical exam? No way! How did a loser like that even pass the gates? Stella's standards must be in the gutter lately. Seol blocked out the noise. He only had one goal: find his name on that list. Nothing else mattered. The world faded away as he scanned the names. But as his eyes darted across the paper, his heart stopped. Wait, where am I? Panic surged through him. Did those 3 lone answers really sink his entire future at the academy? I am cooked. It is over. As he wallowed in despair, the chatter around him took a sharp turn. This has to be a typo. Even Aslak from the Marquis family only made Class A at rank 29. Even the genius at rank 17 got stuck in Class A. Why was everyone whispering his name with such shock? Confusion flared in his chest. What is the deal? Might as well look. It is not like I can fail twice. He shoved through the crowd, determined to see the source of the drama. Then, his heart skipped a beat. His jaw dropped. There it was. His name, etched in a place it should not be. This cannot be real, right? He was staring at the holy grail of rankings, Rank S, the elite sanctuary for the absolute monsters of Stella Academy. While other classes were a mixed bag, Class S was a fortress of 41 top-tier legends. It was a league of its own. He rubbed his temples, a headache forming. I am in Rank S? Tell me, this is a prank. This is a disaster. I am going to be bumping into the main protagonists 24/7. Being near the main cast was a death sentence for his lifespan. There was no escaping this nightmare now. Guess I will just have to keep my head down and pray. As he sighed, the academy remained deceptively peaceful. But in the shadows, violence erupted. A sharp crack echoed as a woman's hand struck Princess Bayan across the face. You failed every single question, she roared. Even that girl from that washed-up duchy got 2 right. The fury in her eyes was unmistakable. Professor Hongyi, Princess Bayan's icy mother, sneered. You failed questions that even a common insect could solve. Basically, you're lower than vermin. Look in the mirror for once. Understand? Bayan's voice cracked as she whispered, Yes, mother. Annoyance flared in the mother's sharp gaze before a heavy, choked-up sigh escaped her trembling lips. Listen, Bayan, you cannot end up like me, a disgraced royal exiled from the kingdom, forced into this pathetic teaching role. Don't be a stain on our legacy. She leaned down with chilling grace. Cupping her daughter's face, she demanded, You must transcend the shadow of your older sister. Then, a motherly mask slid into place, her smile deceptively warm. You grasped the weight of my words, right? Bayan's face burned a deep crimson. Swallowing her pride, she managed a hollow. Of course, mother. I understand. But deep down, it was all a facade. Those words were nothing but empty echoes. She'd spent her life acting like a programmed machine. But suddenly, the gears were grinding to a halt. Advanced magic circles and complex formulas, territory she'd never scouted. Now, she felt completely lost. Total despair shattered her resolve, tears blurring her vision. Why? Why must this torment never end? Meanwhile, in the Elite S class, the atmosphere was heavy. Beck UCL sat isolated, drowning in a sea of depression. Head in his hands, he felt the walls closing in. He'd been tossed into a lion's den of high-tier weirdos. He wasn't even trying to socialize, but the venomous whispers started almost instantly. Why was he here? The girl's voice dripped with confusion. It made absolutely 0 sense to her. Our families are rioting over why he's in S-class, but the higher-ups claim Beck UCL earned his spot. Honestly, the whole thing reeks of a scandal. As they gossiped, Beck caught every single stinging word. Loneliness gnawed at him. He felt like a glitch in the system. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. These prodigies had bled and sweated since birth. Seeing an outsider in their ranks was a total slap. Rankings were cutthroat here, shifting based on raw merit. Even the prestigious S-class wasn't safe. One wrong move meant demotion, while A-class sharks were constantly waiting to take your spot. Well, I'll deal with them when the time comes. Beck scanned the room, spotting several familiar faces. These were legends from the game, and somehow, he was sitting right beside them. It felt surreal. Future heroes of the continent were literally within arm's reach. But in a few short years, disaster would strike when 5 of them decided to betray the Magic Council's trust. Ma Yusheng was among the traitors. If Flame could just intervene now, maybe history could be rewritten. Suddenly, Professor Lee Hanwol stepped into the room. All right, everyone, Settle down and find your seats. Recognizing that legendary voice, Beck's head snapped toward the podium in an instant. This was a man of immense power. It's an honor to meet such fresh talent. Some recognize me, but for the rest, I am Lee Hanwol, the head of S-Class. The room immediately erupted into hushed chatter. Wait, that's the real deal? The legendary Lee Hanwol? The students couldn't believe their eyes. I heard his body count of dark magic beasts is pushing 4 digits. Absolute savage. They call him a level 7 magic warrior. He's a total beast. Seeing the awe, the professor cut through the noise. Quiet down. We have a lot of talent this year and one very special exemption student among us. Remember, this academy transforms you into battle mages, the elite frontline known as magic warriors. Prepare yourselves for 3 years of pure, unadulterated hell. There is no room for the weak. I expect nothing less than perfection. Show me the absolute peak of your hidden potential. Any questions before we dive into the deep end? The professor's gaze swept across the room. Silence reigned supreme. The teacher smirked. Perfect. Then let the real training begin. Just then, a shadow crossed the doorway. Princess Beyond limped in, her cheek bruised and battered. The class gasped in shock, and Beck felt his heart skip a beat. This was wrong. Beyond was the ultimate rule follower. For her to be late, something catastrophic must have happened. She offered a strained apology to the teacher, her face a mask of pure exhaustion and defeat. Driven by curiosity, Beck reached for his crowbar glasses. The moment he equipped them, the system updated. Meet Beyond, a fire-wielding antagonist who secretly craves red ginseng candy and milky lattes while drowning in guilt. In the world of Achillea, a wicked mother reigns and death is the only destiny. He couldn't stop thinking about it. Fate is a cruel mistress. If Hazel perishes in the flames, Beyond is destined to burn right alongside her. It is the tragic, inevitable end for every villain. Honestly, I would rewrite her destiny if I actually had the power, but I am in no position to save anyone. Sighing, he removed his glasses, feeling the heavy weight of melancholy. After hearing her excuse for being late, the teacher gestured toward the back. Go find a seat over there, please. Baekyu Seol remained lost in his thoughts, keeping a cautious distance. Then, the unexpected happened. As his mind drifted, Beyond suddenly approached his desk, her gaze shimmering with a mix of heartbreak and pure resentment. She stared him down while he sat there, completely clueless. Then, without a single word, Beyond claimed the seat right beside him. Baekyu Seol froze in total bewilderment, thinking, wait, what? Is this really happening? Has the entire storyline been glitched and distorted from the very beginning? Once everyone settled into their seats, the professor spoke. All right, class, before we dive into today's lesson, we will hold the magic wand inheritance ceremony. Both Class S and Class A will participate together. Details would follow later, but Baekyu Seol was skeptical. An inheritance ceremony? This sounds like a total drag. Despite the hassle, a small smirk escaped him. He actually felt a spark of anticipation for the big event. At Stella Academy, there are 2 legendary milestones, the Soulmate Pact and this prestigious inheritance ritual. At a top-tier school like Stella, the ceremony is more than tradition. It is the ultimate status symbol. Soon, the students gathered in a cryptic, ancient hall. Professor Lee Hanwol stepped forward to address the crowd. Is everyone present? We have countless wands prepared here, ranging from common relics to medium-tier artifacts. Find the one that speaks to you. But remember, the selection process is permanent, and choosing poorly is a nightmare. Baekyu Seol narrowed his eyes. The teacher made it sound like a choice, but he knew the hidden truth. In this world, we do not choose the wands. The wands are the ones that choose us. Resonance is everything. You cannot just wield a high-level wand simply because you are feeling ambitious. He approached the floating relics, scanning the room as magical energy hummed through the air. Indecision kicked in. He stood there frozen, having no idea which piece of wood was truly meant for him. Normally, he would have snagged a low-rank tool to fly under the radar, but Class S changed the game. Picking trash would make him a laughingstock. Suddenly, a remarkably plain, simple wand caught his eye. Magic tools are split, wands for fast-casting knights, and heavy staffs for those who focus on massive power. Staffs take ages to charge but hit like a freight train, perfect for specialized bishops seeking one-shot kills. Whispers erupted behind him. Check him out. He is Class S, so his resonance must be insane, right? Baekyu Seol felt the targets on his back. They were all waiting to see him fail or succeed. He tuned them out. Let the haters talk. Caring about their petty opinions was just a waste of energy. Hey, you! A voice called out. Confused, Baekyu Seol turned around to see who was bothering him now. A total stranger stood there with a punchable, arrogant face. Can I help you? Who even are you? With a smirk of pure elitism, the boy replied, The name is Uslek. Try to remember it, Baekyu Seol. The name rang 0 bells. Probably just some minor character seeking clout. He had never heard of the guy. Oh, Cool story, he replied, looking bored. Uslik crossed his arms, clearly irritated by the indifference. So, which wand are you picking? Whatever I find, he shrugged, triggering a sarcastically sharp sneer. Stick to something basic that fits a commoner like you. Don't go chasing dreams you cannot reach. He warned him not to embarrass the professor. Baek Yu-seol just looked at him with a gaze of pity. He turned his back, throwing one last jab. Sure thing, just try not to cause any trouble yourself. That did it. Uslik's face turned a violent shade of red as his blood boiled over. He looked like he was about to blow a fuse. You bastard! You think you can talk to me like that? What a headache. Baek Yu-seol wanted peace, but this brat was begging for a reality check. He let out a weary sigh, pulled out his spare glasses, and clicked them into place. A digital screen flickered to life before him. Uzlek Chekbulin, the Marquis' heir and Prince Jeremy's personal lapdog. Dissatisfaction, level 3. With a disappointed click of his tongue, he stashed the glasses away. Seriously, is that all? He let out a heavy sigh, searching for any spark of hidden potential. Uzlek pointed a condescending finger toward a specific weapon. Observe closely. That one belongs to me. Baek Yu-seol's eyes narrowed. It was the Edmuri staff, the undisputed crown jewel of this collection. Typically, such high-tier artifacts are reserved for elite masters. No matter how gifted an individual is, trainees usually hit a wall with low-level gear. Even the pros rarely touch anything below mid-tier. Among this entire horde, nothing else matched the legendary status of the Edmuri. It stood there purely for show. No student could ever claim it. Then, the instructor broke the silence. Stand before the weapon you desire. One by one, the hopeful mages stepped toward their chosen destinies. Everyone had made their pick. Suddenly, a brilliant blue aura flooded the room from behind. Whoa, look! Haewon chose the Amikot wand. The crowd buzzed. That was a solid medium-rank find. Prince Scalvin wasn't far behind, securing his own mid-tier weapon. Baek Yu-seol scanned the chaotic room. Princess Bion claimed the Suaviter Le Haven. Yet another medium-ranked powerhouse joining the fray. Multiple medium-rank picks? This batch was cracked. Uzlek fumed, his teeth practically grinding into dust from envy. Whatever, just watch me, he snarled under his breath. Driven by pure spite, he made his move. He marched toward the staff. Gasps of disbelief rippled through the crowd. Wait, is that Uzlek? Is he actually challenging a high-tier staff? Grinning like a madman, Uzlek reached for the ancient wood. Prepare to be amazed. I'll show you what S-class talent really looks like. He clamped his hand down hard. Static hissed through the air. Then boom, a violent eruption of pure mana shook the very foundation. The blinding glare scorched the room. Baek Yu-seol barely blinked. It was exactly as he'd foreseen. Absolute failure. The staff's raw backlash sent Uzlek flying backward like a broken ragdoll. He crashed hard, refusing to accept the humiliation. The surrounding trainees watched the disaster unfold in terror. He's hurt. Someone get a healer or the professor, now. The room erupted into absolute panic. Intermediate high grade was a suicide mission for him. Why be so reckless? Yu-seol just shook his head. The higher they climb, the harder they fall. Better luck next life, kid. You should have quit. Just then, another figure stepped toward the staff. He was whistling, radiating a terrifying level of confidence. It seemed the weapon's true master had finally arrived. The one walking with such swagger was him, Ma Yusheng. The atmosphere shifted the moment he stepped into the light. He stared down the staff with a predator's intensity, before breaking into a wicked, triumphant smirk. He looked satisfied with his prey. The students' whispers turned into full-blown cheers of excitement. Is he serious? Trying for the high-grade intermediate? No one thought he could survive the resonance. Tuning out the noise, Ma Yusheng reached out. His fingers brushed against the pulsing magic staff. He grabbed it. A supernova of light exploded, yet he stood his ground, completely unfazed by the surge. The pressure was suffocating. Everyone else recoiled, shielding their eyes from the blinding radiance of his power. Success. He'd achieved perfect resonance. Clutching the staff, he flashed a beaming, victorious smile. He looked like a god in that moment. The trainees stood frozen, unable to process the miracle before them. This is insane. A first year actually tamed a mid-level high staff? The shocks just kept coming. Yu-seol sighed, called it. The world was about to realize just how monstrous this guy's talent was. Suddenly, Yusheng's gaze locked onto him. A cold shiver ran down Baek Yu-seol's spine. What's he planning? Yusheng approached with a friendly grin, but Yu-seol's expression remained frozen like ice. His survival instincts screamed, damn it, is he mental? What's with that creepy smile? Then, he remembered the game's lore. Flame was supposed to claim the other high-tier staff, Terravan. That choice would normally spark Yusheng's interest in her. It was the moment their destinies would intertwine. But if she veers off course, everything changes. Ma Yusheng will walk an entirely different, unpredictable path. To reel in Ma Yusheng, Bikuciel needed Flame as bait. He tracked her down immediately. She was eyeing a mysterious artifact with hesitation. Beak realized it was the legendary Teravan staff. Holding his breath, he watched intensely. Flame edged closer to the Teravan's radiant aura. "Just take it," he whispered. "Then Ma Yusheng won't be able to ignore you." A flawless conclusion was within reach. But just as victory felt certain near that staff, she suddenly pivoted and walked away. Beak felt a soul-crushing shock. What was happening? Did she hate the Teravan? Is she clueless? Or is she just missing the right intel? This was bad. As the protagonist, she resonates with everything. If she picks a trash weapon, it's over. I can't just sit here. Time to intervene. I have to force that Teravan staff onto her. Locking onto her coordinates, he triggered his blink skill, vanishing into a blur toward her. In a heartbeat, he appeared behind her. Flame sensed a presence and spun around, totally blindsided. When did he get there? Beak flashed a charming, friendly grin. "Hey there. Hello. Wasup. I was just wondering, which staff are you planning to claim today? Flame. Why do you care? Is it your business?" She snapped. Beak acted shy. "Just giving some advice." "You looked confused," he offered. Flame's gaze turned icy. "That's none of your concern either. If we're done, I'm out." She turned her back on him. Beak panicked. "Wait." He froze. This was wrong. Wasn't she supposed to be the friendly, social type? Why the cold shoulder? "I can't back down now. My literal survival is on the line." Mustering every ounce of his bravery, he shouted, "Hold on. I really want to help." Flame's patience snapped. "You're acting like a total nag," she groaned, looking clearly annoyed. "Worry about yourself. You haven't even picked a weapon, yet you're meddling in mine." Beak didn't flinch. "I just think there's one specific staff that's perfect for you." "Are you lecturing me?" Flame hissed. "What do you even know about high-tier relics?" Her intensity made him shrink. "Did I overstep? Is my timing just that bad? Maybe she just despises side characters like me." Well," he stammered awkwardly. "I've heard rumors about your potential. You didn't think you could master that staff?" "The Teravan?" she asked, her guard dropping. Seeing her soften, Beak offered a knowing smile. "Bingo, that's the one." Suddenly, a thunderous roar wiped the grin off his face. A massive explosion rocked the room. The overwhelming pressure left him drenched in cold sweat. His eyes bulged. Out of nowhere, a shimmering staff flew straight into his grip. "What?" He stared at the artifact, his face turning ghostly white. Why was it choosing him? This was Flame's destiny. Damn it. Beak was speechless, his brain completely short-circuiting. Flustered and unable to explain, he just stood there. Meanwhile, Flame stared in silence. She looked stunned for a second, then her lips curled into a mysterious smirk. Well, that look gave him major goosebumps. "It's nothing," he trembled, heart racing. Internally, he was screaming. "I'm cooked. My quiet life is officially over and buried. I can't hide anymore." The ceremony was over, but the fallout was just beginning. Later, Flame was wandering the academy grounds, trailing behind a group of whispering students. She caught the tail end of a juicy rumor between two guys. "Yo, did you hear? 2 students actually scored high-level epic staffs this year," one student exclaimed. "No way. Only 5 people in history have done that. Now there are 2 more? Yeah, but it's weird. One of them only used basic blink magic during the trials." "Blink? My folks said that's a rare skill. Though, how is that even possible?" The gossip echoed in Flame's mind. Even she was struggling to process the madness. Finally reaching the quiet sanctuary of the study hall, she sighed in relief. Peace at last. Peace at last. All day, the school has been buzzing with whispers about that specific incident. Word travels fast. Everyone knows 2 students managed to snag a high-level epic staff. But he remains a total mystery. How did he claim the Teravan staff? I devoured the original novel thrice. Before landing here, Baek Usiel was never part of the story. They said Teravan was untouchable, yet he sinks with it effortlessly. Honestly, it feels like he's just flexing on me. Whatever. Moving on. Spiraling is pointless right now. Suddenly, a voice cuts through her thoughts. "Flame, hitting the books too?" She spins around, flashing a megawatt smile while hiding her true feelings. "These kids are so bizarre. You think I'm some nerd?" The blonde girl laughs, noting Flame is always busy doing nothing. "And yet, you're here studying." Flame blushes, acting shy. Another girl leans in, eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Wait, Flame, why call us kids? We're the same age." Flame quickly scrambles for a believable cover story. "Just a habit from back home. People always treated me like an old soul, haha. But the reality? Living inside a novel makes acting like a teen impossible." Then, another voice chimes in. "So, solo study session today?" She looks back at a cute redhead. Could this be Jackie? Her vibe mirrors mine perfectly, she thinks, but replies cheerfully. "The epic meeting is coming up, so I'm in. I'll head in first. Let's grab drinks next time." Without another word, Flame bolts, tossing a quick bye-bye over her shoulder as she waves. 1 second she's bubbly, the next, she's back to being an ice queen. At that moment, she realizes that being an adult trapped in a student's life is exhausting, distracted by her thoughts. She fails to look ahead. Wham! She slams headfirst into someone, the impact jolting her whole body. Ouch! My head, she groans, clutching her forehead. Suddenly, the person she hit speaks up. That warm voice? She looks up, stunned by the familiar tone. Wait, Wan Riang? Is that you? You okay? He asks immediately. What was so important that you were power walking like that? I'm fine. Really? Flame mutters. He studies her face for a beat, clearly unconvinced. You look pale. Is something eating at you? His genuine concern makes her heart skip a beat. He was actually worried about her. No, not at all, she stammers, blushing. He takes the hint. Glad you're all right. Heading to the study hall, right? Exactly, she nods, trying to act cool. The senior level training room? I can't afford to be lazy now. You're a beast, stop it. They bicker back and forth like a classic rom-com duo. He just smiles at her with pure affection, silent for a moment. He waves his hand. Well, I'm heading out. See you later. He vanishes, leaving Flame dazed and imagining a cinematic romance. But nothing happens. What a buzzkill, she sighs, turning away. Suddenly, her eyes widen in shock. From the shadows of a nearby door, a purple-haired girl is lurking. Flame gives a cautious wave. The girl just stalks off in silence. Flame's baffled, but it's too late to chase after her now. She puts the mystery aside and finally reaches the self-study sanctum. Standing at the entrance, she whispers, the special supplemental meeting. If the original novel is right, Hazel and Baek Han should be inside. I need to see this. The ultimate showdown, heroine versus villainess. With a deep breath, she swings the door open. Bullseye. Every major player is already there. She slowly scans the room, taking in the atmosphere. Her eyes land on the host, an A-rank trainee. He looks visibly shaken by the heavy hitters present. Flame snags a high vantage seat to observe the drama. As she settles in, she thinks, this is the big leagues for leveling up. No wonder the elite S-rank trainees are out in force. Then, she spots them, Ma Yusheng and Bak Yu-seol together. Seeing them laughing like besties catches her off guard. In this world, this is absolutely wild. Why would an icon like Yusheng care about a nobody like Baek Yu-seol? This isn't just luck. It makes no sense. How could he fail everything except those 3 impossible hell-level questions? From the jump, Baek Yu-seol might have realized that nailing those riddles would secure his S-rank status. If he truly possessed foresight, then every move he made back then becomes straight-up chilling. Yu-seol let out a weary sigh, wishing he could just erase that name from existence. Meanwhile, Ma Yusheng was the total opposite, beaming with a squinty-eyed grin. Yo Yu-seol, why are you just lurking here? With your skills, you shouldn't even be in this class. Got some spicy secrets you're hiding? Yu-seol flashed a forced grin. Haha, nothing special, man. I just felt like dropping by for the vibes. But let's be real, you're capping. You're only stuck here because your test scores were absolute trash. He stared at the guy, baffled by the weird attention. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the air. All right, pipe down. We're diving into the problems from the recent ranking exam right now. That test was a total nightmare. Even the seniors dubbed those 3 specific problems the hell questions. I'll break everything down for you, he announced, though internally, he was low-key sweating bullets. He couldn't wrap his head around why such high-profile students were even bothering to show up here. His whole plan was just to clout chase by playing hero to the clueless rookies in this room. A wicked thought sparked in Kyle's brain as he eyed Yu-seol. Wait, this was his moment to shine. Word on the street was that Baek Yu-seol had the single worst score on the placement exam. I just need to flex and show him who's boss. Kyle's confidence was officially through the roof. Eyes on me, everyone. Let's tackle problem 1, Kyle declared, chalk clicking rapidly against the blackboard. This question is actually a massive trap designed to lead you astray. First, we approach it like this. Below him, the student sat mesmerized, frantically taking notes on every single word he uttered. Ma Yusheng caught Yu-seol deep in thought and immediately poked him. Yo, what's your take on this? Think his logic holds up? Yu-seol just stared at him, completely lost and blinking in confusion. Ma Yusheng's eyes were squeezed shut in a playful grin as he waited. Yu-seol was totally creeped out. Yu-seol went pale. Is he for real? Is he actually asking if I agree with that guy's point? I can't even follow the basic lecture, let alone solve these 3 legendary hell questions. Whatever. Honesty is the best policy. Yu-seol sighed and muttered, honestly, I've got no clue, man. The second he spoke, the surrounding students started whispering, their eyes darting back and forth in shock. Wait, did I hear that right? Is Baek Yu-seol actually claiming that Kyle messed up? It felt like a setup to drag Yu-seol's name through the mud, given his bottom-tier entrance rankings. Up at the board, Kyle froze mid-sentence. Those whispers had definitely reached his ears. Irritation flared in Kyle's eyes as he gnashed his teeth. Instantly, Uziel felt a chill of danger. He looked around, totally bewildered. Wait, what's with the vibe? Why is everyone burning holes through me? Kyle snapped his chalk in half, a sharp crack echoing. You're right, I made a mistake. Uziel's jaw practically hit the floor. He was completely blindsided. What on earth was happening right now? Kyle's face twisted into a smug, triumphant smirk. So, Bake UCL, since you're the expert here, why don't you come down and show us the solution? UCL's heart nearly stopped at that request. His survival instincts screamed as he panicked. Crap, what the hell is this guy trying to pull? He glanced at Ma Yusheng, who was beaming with a weirdly supportive and totally terrifying look of faith. That you got this stare was the final straw. These guys were definitely setting him up for a fall. Accepting the challenge, he slowly began his walk toward the front, his mind racing with every step. If you think you can humiliate me, you're wrong. I'm not someone who just accepts defeat. All eyes were on him. He reached into his gear and pulled out a single item. He prepared to dismantle the problem. Turns out, the secret weapon he needed was just his glasses. 3 hell questions? More like a cheesy wordplay trap. Here's the real essence of the riddle. A mage chants, "O Mother Earth, weep for us, and let the dust multiply twofold." The big question is, why does this happen? Well, the solution is actually incredibly basic. The dust is merely weeping a simple state of severance, Baekyu Seol muttered, massaging his aching temples. He wondered what clown actually invented this trash. To him, it was just pure brain rot. Yet, the others treated this joke like a final boss. Kyle, especially, saw it as far more than just math. He was trying to force the elements to grieve. It was weird, and despite his flawed logic, he somehow cheesed the answer. Pure RNG luck. If the variables shifted even slightly, he would fail miserably without a doubt. Time to take the spotlight, Yu Seol thought. Turning to Kyle, he sighed. I will not show you the solution, but I will show you exactly where you tripped up. Kyle froze, gasping. Wait, what? Yu Seol did not skip a beat. You focused on the Earth core, but what if it was wind or water? Would your logic still hold up? I would just swap to an easier strat, Kyle countered. Yu Seol frowned. Then you would need a dozen different tricks. You are just brute forcing the same problem. That is why your win was nothing but a lucky fluke. It does not mean your answer matches the creator's true intent. Kyle opened his mouth to clap back, but the words died in his throat. He could only mumble, finally crushed by the cold, hard truth. You are right. Seeing Kyle's defeated expression, Yu Seol felt a twinge of guilt, like he had just kicked a puppy. Still, he pressed on anyway. The real path is this. Kyle scrambled to take notes, and the entire class followed suit, hanging on every word. Flame stood there, absolutely floored. She could not wrap her head around why everyone was treating his words like holy scripture. Hazel and Baekyeon were supposed to be debating him. Instead, they were obsessively dissecting his every move. Was this actually happening? It was insane. Outside, the sun began to dip, casting long shadows across the room. Kyle waved a cheerful goodbye to Baekyu Seol. Catch you tomorrow. He flashed a blinding, bright grin. Before heading out, Yu Seol gave a half-hearted wave back. Later, as Kyle faded into the distance, Yu Seol buried his face in his palms, agonizing. Damn it, if I keep vibing with this guy, it is over. I am cooked. I am deleting tomorrow. I hope I never see him again, as long as I live. He sighed, dropping his hand. Staring at his palm, a thought hit him. Maybe it is the lack of a phone? Being disconnected is high-key annoying, but it drew Kyle in. Why does fate keep forcing these awkward run-ins on me? Oddly enough, Flame was the only one who had mastered Blink. As he strolled toward the exit, he spotted Baekyeon lingering, looking visibly downcast. He paused, wondering, wait, what is her deal? She looked wrecked, but honestly, not his problem. He tried to breeze past her, but she suddenly called his name. Baekyu Seol. He blinked, wondering if he had misheard. I need to ask you something, she blurted out. Yu Seol was stunned. He never imagined someone as perfect as her would ever need his help. Baekyeon? What is up? He asked. She did not hesitate, cutting straight to the chase. Why did you not explain your answer back then? Yu Seol froze, caught off guard by the blunt question. He thought, it is not that I would not, I literally had no idea how to put it into words. How do you explain the unexplainable? She is definitely overthinking this. Well, he muttered, scratching his neck awkwardly. I did not really need to. Baekyeon cut him off instantly. I get it. You are hiding something big, right? He was lost. That is not it at all. I will make it worth your while, she interrupted again. Excuse me? What are you saying? He stammered. Baekyeon looked him in the eye. I mean, I will pay you fairly for your time. Yu Seol's jaw hit the floor. Wait, what? Soon, they were sneaking into Professor Haewon Ryong's office, digging through piles of paperwork for their exams. They finally snatched their tests. Glancing at her paper, Yuseol frowned. I really do not get it. Why would you pay me to solve just 3 placement questions? I have my reasons, she replied coldly. It is classified. Just keep talking. Ma'am, he sighed, scanning her test results. You are doubting yourself? You only missed 3. I basically bombed the entire thing. Yet you are asking me for help? No shame? None, she said flatly. The only shame I feel is my own inability to grasp these concepts. If you can clear this up for me, I will do literally anything. Yuseol froze, his brain short-circuiting. Wait, is she serious? Is she not the ultimate honors student? He gulped, then asked, but why reach out to me? As a princess, you've surely got plenty of friends to ask, right? Out of 1,141 rookies, only 3 souls cracked those hellish riddles. You're one of them. Our hero's jaw dropped as he sputtered. Wait, what? What did you just say? Those problems had no official answers yet. Only Baek Soul, Flame, and you managed to break through. That's exactly why I feel like a total fraud. Trembling, the male lead shouted, No, wait. He bolted upright, his mouth hanging wide open in utter disbelief. Those 3 questions were straight up bait, right? They were impossible. How did you not see that while solving them? Beyond's answer forced him back into his seat. His mind was racing. This whole situation was insane. Now it clicks. That's why I'm in Class S, and why Flame is always watching me. I'm clueless about this world's mechanics. I was blind to those trap questions, but Flame is different. She's probably got the entire script memorized. Even if she doesn't know the game's every move, she definitely knows the lore, especially those 3 trick questions. But since a wildcard like Baek Soul appeared, Flame was forced to acknowledge his existence. Damn it, no wonder she's been acting so sus. Beyond, watching his meltdown, asked in confusion, What is wrong with you? He brushed it off instantly. Nothing, don't sweat it. But hey, don't forget, you promised to help me out if I explained these answers to you. Beyond nodded. Yeah, I remember. One small request. Turn my staff into a demonic sword. Your royal blacksmiths can handle that, right? Beyond's eyes went wide. But only bottom-tier mercenaries swing those. Why would a future mage like you want that? He didn't let her finish, cutting in with a grin. Let's just say it fits my aesthetic perfectly. You can't call it a flaw anymore. He leaned in, testing her. So, can you actually make it happen? She didn't hesitate for a second. Please, for someone like me, that's child's play. This was the best news all day. He beamed with satisfaction, a faint blush creeping across his face. Finally, things were looking up. All right then, let's focus. I'll show you how to crack this first problem. He tapped the exam paper with authority. The secret is shifting your entire perspective. She looked completely lost. How do I even do that? She asked. He knew her fatal flaw. Her magic was way too rigid and mechanical. In the original story, she only realized this as a sophomore, after Flame absolutely crushed her. I can't force the realization on her yet, but I can definitely point her in the right direction. Do you even know what a riddle is? He asked. The sudden question caught Beyond completely off guard. A riddle? Yeah, I think I've heard of those before, she replied cautiously. All right, try this. What stands right between the knees? She rested her chin on her hand, thinking hard. The space between them? She guessed. He smirked. Nope, you're dead wrong. Wait, why? She demanded. He leaned in, repeating the question slowly to let it sink in. Look at the word knee. What letter is in the middle? She realized she'd been played and looked totally livid. Meanwhile, Baek Soul watched her fuming, looking like she was about to go nuclear. Whoa, take it easy. Don't look at me like I'm the enemy. Just sit down and look at this logically. This question uses formulas you haven't mastered yet. You need to approach these problems with a creative spark. But can you really do that relying only on what you already know? Beyond went dead silent. No, I can't, she admitted, sounding ashamed. He finally let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He flashed a warm smile. Exactly. Knowing every spell in the book is great, but that's not what makes a true sorcerer. The real power lies in how you view the world. Magic is fluid. It changes with the slightest shift. You're trapped in what you've seen and read. To you, magic is just a series of cold, unrealistic theories. Magic isn't just about chanting lines and memorizing symbols. It's so much more than that. You're a genius at analysis, but you're missing the soul of sorcery. Pure, unadulterated creativity. Beyond went quiet again, his words hitting her like a physical blow. She couldn't even find the energy to argue. Her hands started to shake as despair set in. Seeing her look so intense, our hero started to panic. He started breaking into a cold sweat. You're actually getting what I'm saying, right? Despite the abstract jargon, Beyond nods with absolute confidence. I totally get it. Our hero forces an awkward grin, thinking, this is wild. Even I have no clue what I'm saying. He keeps a straight face and continues, glad we're on the same page. Now, here's a riddle for you. What does a man tell his horse at bedtime? The question leaves her completely baffled and lost. Chin in hand, she enters deep thought mode, repeating the riddle like a mantra, desperate for an answer. Her brain stalls out. I don't know, she mutters, looking defeated. So, our lead breaks it down. It is simple. Nighty-night. He laughs, then immediately fires off a rapid-fire sequence of even weirder brain teasers. Why are they so lazy? Maybe because their job requires them to lie down constantly. He then pivots. What happens if a rock and paper race? She is stumped again. Simple, the rock rolls, while the others stay frozen. Their anatomy literally won't let them move. He glances at Beyond, but the words die in his throat. Her entire frame is vibrating with pure, unadulterated frustration. She is literally torturing herself trying to solve these. Rage simmers behind her furrowed brows and gritted teeth. She looks incredibly distressed, and honestly, a bit terrifying. Chills run down his spine. Uh-oh, he thinks. She looks like she is about to snap at any second. Mustering his bravery, he tries one last one. What do the clouds whisper to the sea during a storm? She locks in, focusing with laser intensity. Focus. Beyond, she tells herself. You can beat this. After a tense internal battle, she steadies her voice and stammers. I am falling into your arms? He is genuinely shocked. Whoa, you actually nailed it. Finally, she has achieved the validation she has been craving. Pure, unfiltered joy washes over her, radiating from her face like a beacon of victory. Beyond beams with a dazzling smile, her eyes shimmering with newfound excitement. It is a total vibe shift. The sight catches him off guard. He has never seen her truly smile before, not in game, and definitely not in real life. Caught up in the moment, he smirks playfully. Exactly as expected from our brilliant princess, he teases. Your creativity is top tier. Blushing at the heavy flattery, she tries to play it cool. Fine, stop. Next question. He grins, leaning into the banter. You got it. And so, the two keep the conversation flowing until nightfall. They lose track of time, chatting away while the academy grounds are swallowed by the creeping shadows of evening. As the last few students linger, our hero trudges home alone, looking absolutely drained from the social interaction. Sporting heavy eye bags, he lets out a weary sigh. I am such an idiot. 3 hours wasted on riddles? There is no way she remembers any of that nonsense. Still, his mind wanders back to the future great witch. Beyond is destined for greatness with that massive brain of hers. But man, she is way too stiff and rigid. Teasing her is easy, but even if she is the villainess, the guilt is starting to weigh on me. Regardless, I need to evolve Terravan into a legendary sword mage. I have got to step up my game. This is not like my old life where I carried everything solo. I need a new strategy, and fast. No use overthinking until my head explodes. I need to track down specific textbooks for the upcoming curriculum. Eventually, he arrives at a secluded spot, scanning the area. It should be right around here, I think. His eyes suddenly ignite with excitement. Aha, I knew it. My memory did not fail me after all. Before him stands a crumbling, ancient shack. It is a total disaster zone, draped in dust and thick cobwebs. Stepping inside, the grim reality hits him. Man, this place is one step away from falling apart, he mutters. He spots the shopkeeper and smirks. He knows the secret behind this sketchy bookstore and its eccentric owner. The guy has a weird habit of faking a nap just to spy on his customers. Talk about creepy vibes. Hidden within these nameless shelves is Mila's legendary notebook, the prize of Stella Academy's top grad from 10 years ago. In the game, I would just click and win. Here, I actually have to hit the physical books to level up. Every page turn directly boosts my stats. I used to buy fancy books, but the real gems are hidden. The most overpowered knowledge is always stashed in these sketchy, signless holes in the wall. Time to get to work. He dives deeper into the clutter. Mastering magic engineering with Mila's secret notes? That is a guaranteed cheat code. Perfect scores are in the bag. Even with my ridicule glasses buff, I might stumble onto something even bigger. Suddenly, something strange catches his eye. Tucked away in a dusty corner sat a weathered green tome. Bingo. Just what I needed, you mutter, reaching for the prize. But as you reach out, another hand snaps toward the same spine. Time freezes. Your gazes lock in a stunned silence. Azel, for real? He blurts out. Her brow furrows in total confusion. Wait. Huh. How do you know my name? Please. You're basically a celebrity, he quips. The gears in her head slowly turn. Oh, right. You're that guy from the Class S supplementary group, Bake Usiol, wasn't it? A sting of disappointment hits him. Man, she really wiped our pre-academy meeting from her memory, huh? That debate was impressive, she admits. though it's a shame you couldn't actually solve the final questions. He bites back a smirk, remembering that Azel herself was completely stumped by those same problems. Anyway, good to see you. With a chilly dismissal, she turns on her heel and vanishes into the aisles. Her cold shoulder stings, but hey, at least the book is still here. Small wins, right? As he secures the tome, his eyes wander back to her. What's a girl like her doing in a dump like this? She's still scanning the shelves, but there's a visible hesitation in every movement. She's second-guessing everything. She checks a price tag, shoulders slumping as a heavy sigh escapes her lips. Another one out of reach. She quietly returns it to the shelf. Watching her, it finally clicks for Baek Yu-seol. The sad reality hits hard. This place is a haven for the broke. Only students living on a prayer like him shop for these second-hand scraps. For a fallen noble like Azel, this is rock bottom. Her father was slaughtered by the demonic race, leaving her penniless. A wave of pity washes over him. A literal princess, now reduced to scavenging through dusty, yellowed pages. She's counting pennies just to survive. But the worst part? According to the original story, her fate is much darker. She's destined to die long before the protagonist, Flame, even takes the stage. Talk about a cursed life. Azel is hands down the unluckiest NPC in this entire game. Shaking off the thought, he grabs his own haul. He slams a massive, heavy stack of volumes onto the counter. I'll take these. Ring 'em up, boss. Azel walks up and stares at his mountain of books with pure, unfiltered envy. She can only dream of such a haul. All of these? The owner gasps, stunned. Baek Yu-seol just gives a cool nod as Azel watches in disbelief. He catches a glimpse of the sadness in her eyes. You all right? You look a bit down. We clearly have the same taste, she mutters coldly. Only picking the most high-value material. Is she mocking me? He awkwardly clears his throat. Wait, which books are you talking about exactly? All of them. Advanced ceiling theory? Seriously? That's ancient history. It's useless without specific rare items. Modern alchemy and magic engineering made that field obsolete. It's a total dead end. This? He chuckles, waving a book. Oh, I know. It's basically trash in today's world. She stares at him like he's lost his mind. If you know it's garbage, then why buy them? That's exactly why I chose them. He shrugs nonchalantly. Her jaw practically hits the floor. Wait, what? She stammers, eyes wide. Clutching his loot, a sly smirk spreads across his face. Since everyone thinks they're useless, getting top grades in this class will be a total breeze. Catch ya later. Peace. He struts away, feeling like a total mastermind. She's right, ceiling theory is a ghost town. But in a competitive academy, that's a massive exploit. Minimum effort, maximum grades. With these guides, this semester is going to be a walk in the park. He vanishes into the crowd, leaving Azel frozen in shock. She has a million questions, but her ego won't let her speak. Her pride is a fortress. Cut to the next morning at Stella Academy, where Azel paces the halls, nerves on edge. Day 1. Void Theory. Her first real class. If it's as easy as he said, maybe I'll survive. An easy A is exactly what she needs. She pushes open the classroom doors and steps inside. The room is already buzzing with students. She finds a spot in the back, but the whispers nearby catch her ear. Wait, you're taking Void Theory too? One student asks. The panic in their voice is unmistakable. Dude, we're cooked. Everyone said this was a breeze, but the word got out way too fast. Every genius in the academy is in this room. We're finished. Azel's heart sinks. Not again, she sighs. She'll just have to grind harder elsewhere. As the bell rings, the reality of the competition settles in. The whole group looked completely drained, complaining about their aching backs and starving stomachs after the long session. They debated where to grab lunch while heading to the cafeteria, leaving Azel to wander behind them like a silent shadow. A heavy sigh escaped her lips as she worried about her grades. That scholarship was starting to look like a distant dream. Clutching her thin wallet, her stomach let out a violent growl that perfectly echoed her desperate hunger. Should she just go eat? She hesitated, counting down her final 60 meal tickets for the entire semester. Bread it is, then. But just as she decided, something caught her eye that made her heart skip a beat. Passing a random classroom on her way to lunch, she spotted a face through the glass that looked strangely familiar. There sat Becky Usial. She paused, confused, until she noticed the professor mid-lecture at the front of the room. It clicked, this was the elective he chose. But weirdly enough, the room was almost completely empty. The few students there were notorious underachievers. She figured this professor was probably 1 foot out the door. Wait, a realization hit her like a bolt of lightning. This class was an easy ticket to a perfect GPA. She could breeze through this, saving all her energy for the tough subjects needed to secure that scholarship. Did Becky Uziel already sniff out this shortcut? The thought of him being that calculating was almost unbelievable. Could he have planned his entire schedule for such a smooth ride? No, she shook her head. That's just impossible. It had to be a fluke. Dismissing the thought, she walked away. Fast forward to the following morning. The morning sun blazed as the students sat through another grueling lecture while the professor's voice droned on. You all know the origins of mana. The ancient white-robed sage was the one who gifted magic to this world. Every race eventually mastered the arts. Leading the class was Professor Layden, a renowned expert on lunar deities. He explained how the elves gained nature magic, while the dwarves were granted the secrets of material enchantment. Humans received the gift of the elements. Then came a mind-numbing dive into abstract theories that were impossible to follow. Our hero sat there looking completely dazed, wondering if he could survive 3 whole years of this academic torture. In the game, I just skipped this dialogue, but in reality, these details could be the key to everything. This lore might lead me to the elusive true ending. At least, that's my working theory for now. Suddenly, he sensed a familiar presence nearby. He turned his head, and his eyes nearly popped out of his skull. Was Azel always in this elective? He racked his brain, but no major character was supposed to be here. Whatever, it's not my problem. Meanwhile, the professor continued his passionate deep dive into history. Human greed knew no bounds. Sorcerers scoured the globe, hunting and stealing the secret magics of other races. But it wasn't enough. Before vanishing, the first sage left behind 12 legendary divine moons. Does anyone here know the secret of the 12 moons? A crystal-clear voice suddenly broke the silence. They're said to be celestial guardians maintaining the continent's balance. It was Azel, speaking with total confidence. She continued, claiming they've been hidden across the land, fulfilling their sacred duty for over a millennium. The professor beamed at her correct answer. Exactly. They possess a unique force that shields our world. Take the 6th moon, the red summer moon. It burns with an eternal, scorching scarlet flame. Legend says it never fades. Even at the crushing depths of the Alamanca Sea, that red fire still rages. Feel free to check it yourselves. The male lead felt a cold shiver run down his spine at the suggestion. Is this guy insane? Setting foot in the Sea King's territory is basically a death sentence for any living soul. Unfazed, the teacher pointed to a map of Bevian, the ocean's most terrifying and massive whirlpool. It was flash-frozen by the 12th moon, the blue winter. Each moon is powerful alone, but together, they create miracles. What kind of miracle? A student chimed in. The professor's expression instantly turned dead serious. No one knows for sure. They've been dormant for 1,000 years. Our hero realized the man wasn't kidding. I ran into a few during my gaming days, but I only ever managed to find 5 during special events. I've scoured every forum and guide out there. No other player has discovered as many moons as I have. If my instincts are right, these 12 moons are the ultimate key to unlocking the true ending. In a decade of play, not a single soul has ever reached that final conclusion. The secret is buried deep within the game's undiscovered mysteries. Surviving death-defying trials, I only glimpsed 5 moons. To reach the true ending, I'll gladly reset. Meanwhile, an inferno streaked toward a training dummy. A massive fireball shrieked through the air, locked onto the target. The atmosphere was electric as the students watched the devastating spell. Standing tall in a crimson gown, a stunning woman commanded the field. Raw power is meaningless, she declared, her voice cutting through the heat. A god-tier strike is garbage if it misses the mark. This was Professor Hong Yul, the legendary fire class instructor and master of flames. The professor paced around, her sharp eyes critiquing every student. She watched them struggle to bridge the gap between complex theory and reality. Suddenly, her instincts flared. A surge of overwhelming heat erupted as a terrifying wave of fire surged toward the dummy's position. The flames tore through the air, impacting the mannequin with thunderous blasts. Boom, boom, boom. The entire courtyard shook from the force. Professor Hong Yul initially watched with satisfaction, but her expression instantly twisted into shock. Her eyes widened as the dust began to settle. As the blinding light faded, the thick charcoal smoke began to drift away. The aftermath left everyone on the training grounds completely breathless. The silhouette emerged, but the dummy was completely unscathed, not a single singe. Professor Hong Yul sighed with a hint of heavy disappointment. That is the cold truth. Bion, the professor lamented. Upon hearing those words, the young girl began to tremble with visible frustration. Bion collapsed onto a bench, her spirit crushed. Disappointment clouded her eyes as she imagined her mother's shattered expectations once again. A cheerful voice suddenly pierced her gloom. Princess! Bion looked up to see a familiar face running toward her with a bright smile. It was her friend, Arsh Wang, rocking her signature cute red pigtails. She flashed a warm, eye-closing grin that could light up the room. Are you okay? Arsh asked softly, sitting beside her. Don't beat yourself up anymore. Your magic was honestly breathtaking and truly wonderful. Princess Bion replied coldly. What's the point? If your magic is stronger than mine but hits nothing, then it is completely useless. But your raw energy is insane, Arsh insisted, her eyes gleaming. Seriously, it is the coolest thing I have seen in a long time. Bian realized this girl had been her friend since childhood. Wang was also a gifted fire mage rising through the ranks. Rumors said a fire prodigy had finally appeared, but Bian knew her own power was a different kind of monster compared to others. Your accuracy is what is truly terrifying, Bian muttered. She couldn't fathom how someone could be so precise with such high-level spells. Arsh blushed, shyly claiming she just needed more practice. Bian suddenly stood up, ending the conversation right then and there. That is enough for today. Talking helped me feel better, so goodbye. With a final nod, she walked away, leaving Arsh dazed. The scene shifts to a grand, meticulously kept castle. Bian was back home, but the weight of the day left her looking drained. She moved through the halls like a ghost, her exhaustion evident. Even in her own home, the pressure of perfection followed her. "Princess," a stern voice called out. Standing tall with unwavering loyalty was her personal guard, the formidable and respected Ye Taran. "Welcome home, madam. I have prepared warm tea and sweets to help you unwind." Ye Taran gestured toward the refreshments with a bow. "Thank you," Bian replied weakly. Ye Taran then updated her on the magic staff she had been adjusting according to the princess's orders. "That staff is exceptional. They say it can even forge a high-level magic sword." Bian listened while eating, her interest finally being piqued. "Is that right?" she asked, though a seed of doubt remained. Ye Taran's expression shifted, becoming noticeably more hesitant and serious. "There are concerning questions," the guard stammered. Bian paused, her eyes narrowing. "What questions? Tell me exactly what you heard." "Rumors say the staff relentlessly devours the wielder's mana." Bian bolted upright, her face turning pale with sudden, mounting panic. "What? Isn't that a cursed dark artifact?" she gasped. Ye Taran shook her head, her face turning dead serious as she continued. "Not quite. It resonates with natural energy." Bian's mind raced in confusion. "Impossible. How can it drain mana while resonating with nature? If it is that unique, why is it only ranked as an intermediate-level tool?" She paced the room, trying to solve the puzzle. Ye Taran answered, "That is exactly why the rank is so low. What do you think about its true potential, Princess? Its original ability strongly amplifies a user's mana, making it stronger. It could even be pushed into the advanced tier categories. But since it only absorbs mana without releasing any, they downgraded it." Bian could not believe the words she was hearing. "Advanced level?" Bian shouted, her voice echoing. "No student could possibly handle a weapon that hungry for mana. It's insane." Even Ye Taran looked rattled by the implications. Meanwhile, Bian clutched her head, her thoughts spiraling out of control with bewilderment. "I knew it wouldn't sync with everyone, but using it? That's impossible, unless they have infinite mana or absolutely nothing at all. I don't understand this. Any sane person would know the risks." She couldn't wrap her head around why someone would wield it. She took a long sip of tea to soothe her dry throat. "Anyway, he is definitely a special person, an anomaly among mages." Fast forward a few days, and the new semester began. The academy buzz was electric as students returned to their assigned seats. In a sunlit classroom, a teacher lectured with burning passion. Offensive magic demands a deeper understanding than any other magical discipline. And there sat our protagonist, locked in and absorbing every word. The real journey within the academy was just getting started. At the front of the hall, the balding Professor Carleen paced while lecturing on the nuances of mana guidance. "This course is mandatory for a reason. Your upcoming duels will focus entirely on the mechanics of casting and precision aiming." Azel sat in the crowd, laser-focused on the lesson. Meanwhile, up on the podium, the professor ranted about the basics. Casting fires magic from your core, while aiming locks onto a fixed target. Consider this trajectory formula. A target 760 meters north is moving south at 12.6 meters per second. What is the perfect trajectory for Yanhai to land a water-type spell on that moving mark? The room went dead silent as the challenge hung in the air. A few students began whispering nervously. One questioned the difficulty of the water attribute, but his friend immediately cut him off with a sharp nudge. "Unless you are a water magic pro, stay quiet." Is this teacher seriously trying to fail us all? UCL, however, was on the brink of passing out. He let out a massive yawn, totally unimpressed by the lecture. "This is a total snooze fest. It is worse than high school lit." Suddenly, the professor's voice snapped him back to reality. "Bake Uciel, stand and solve this." Reluctantly, our hero climbed to his feet and muttered a response. Inside, he was fuming. Why me again? After spending a moment working through the complex explanation, he finished the formula and turned with a smirk. Done. The professor peered at Uciel's work in pure disbelief. Carline was floored. "Phenomenal. You handled that university-level nightmare like it was basic addition. Is your affinity water?" Uciel quickly shook his head. "No, sir." The professor nodded, visibly impressed. "Let us move to the next one." After that display, Azel began seeing him in a completely different light. Class finally wrapped up, and the students bolted. But then, a crisp voice cut through the noise. "Excuse me." He turned, blinking in surprise. "You talking to me?" Standing there was Azel, looking dead serious. "I have a question." In her mind, the mysteries surrounding Bake UCL were piling up fast. It was not just about his rank, this guy was brilliant. His intellect easily rivaled the Academy's top mages. Solving that impossible equation with such speed and precision, it was practically unheard of. That was university-tier magic theory. Even at Stella Academy, a hub for geniuses, that was next-level stuff. Who is this guy? At first, I had my doubts, but now the truth is undeniable. He is definitely gaming the registration system. She took a deep breath. "What is your next course?" Caught off guard, Uciel blinked at her. He kept his cool, though. "Why do you care? Got a crush on me?" Azel's face twisted in annoyance. "Ugh, you creep. You think I am some weirdo? That is nasty." Uciel's face flushed with irritation. "Hey, I am the one who should be grossed out here." "Wait," he caught himself. "I am technically an adult. Why am I arguing with a kid like this?" He rubbed his neck awkwardly. "Fine, why are you asking?" Azel's expression shifted to total seriousness. "I have tracked your schedule. You have specifically picked classes that are notorious for being easy grade boosters. No more games. Tell me directly, where did you learn that registration strategy? This is a big deal for me." Uciel sighed internally. So that was what she was after. He let out a loud, forced laugh, waving her off. "Haha, you are overthinking it. My classes? It is just a lucky coincidence, kid. If that is all, I am out." He turned his back and walked off. Azel was stunned by his cold attitude. "What?" She watched his retreating figure in pure frustration. She was not letting him go. "Hey, wait!" Uciel ignored her. Swallowing her pride, she mustered her courage and sprinted after him, shouting at the top of her lungs. "Wait up!" Uciel finally stopped. She was out of breath. "Just 1 second. "What now?" Uciel asked. "Quit following me and find another mentor. There are tons of pros here. Or just stalk my schedule since you already know it." Azel stammered, flustered. "But anyone can breeze through divination and snag an A+. That is not the point. If I join your classes, I might ruin the curve for you." Her eyes suddenly clouded with guilt. She felt bad. If he lost his scholarship because of her, it would be a total disaster. Even now, she was stressing over his grades. UCL stared at her pouting, pitiful face, and realized that despite being a total headache, she really did have that female lead energy. Flipping the switch, she flashed her most adorable, angelic smile. "Anyway, mind hooking me up with a class recommendation? A total GPA booster? Pretty please?" she pleaded, but the male lead's response was instant and cold. "You think that face works on me?" he scoffed. The girl just tilted her head, gently cupping her own cheek. She looked genuinely confused. "That's weird. Normally, one look at my face makes everyone's troubles just melt away." Her deluded confidence was enough to make him gag. With a deadpan stare, he simply muttered, "Are you for real?" Hazel turned beet red, her eyes crinkling into crescent moons. "Haha, totally kidding. I knew you'd give me that exact look. To apologize, I've got something spicy planned." The male lead's eyebrow twitched. Using me for her little schemes again? He cringed internally. Kids these days think they can smooth talk their way out of anything just by opening their mouths. Then, Hazel leaned in. "Ever heard of the seventh magic?" The male lead's heart skipped. "I have," he replied, stunned. "I'm aware," he confirmed. She gasped. "For real? That's ancient history to most people. After all, that abandoned tower, layers of ancient wards now choke the air where that majestic tower once pierced the sky." She was mid-sentence, spilling every secret with fervor, when her voice suddenly cut to a chilling silence. Catching Uciel's pale expression, concern washed over her. "Wait, you look like you've seen a ghost. Are you all right?" Uciel's head throbbed as he gripped his temples. This intel was massive, a total game-changer for the timeline. This secret allowed Flame to tighten his grip on the protagonist. But that wasn't the only problem. This was canon knowledge Flame possessed, and it turned out Hazel was also in on the secret. This high-level intel was meant only for the hero, never for a background character like him. Dismissing the thought, he waved her off with a bored sigh. "Pass. Sounds like some cheesy horror flick. Not my vibe, and honestly, pretty mid." Without another word, he turned on his heel and vanished. Hazel stood there, totally ghosted and confused. "Hey, it's not even that scary. Are you seriously a coward at your age?" Relenting, Uciel sighed. "Fine, I'll bite." She smirked, sensing his sudden shift. "Weren't you just acting all tough? Why the sudden change of heart?" "Actually, never mind. I like this version of you better," Uciel countered. At that moment, it finally clicked. Hazel genuinely wanted to help him. That was enough for him. Stealing his voice, he spoke up. This isn't about your GPA, but it's a total lifesaver for my future. You need to sign up for the meditation journey to the Void elective. Just trust me on this one. Meditation? Hazel's brow furrowed. As a culture class? Usually the moon god's tomb and mental discipline take priority. Are you into Zen stuff now? She asked. The protagonist hesitated, the real explanation stuck in his throat. Thinking fast, he spun a lie. My master is a high-ranking bishop, just like you. Meditation is the key. It boosts magical flow and precision, he added. Hazel gasped in total shock. Just from sitting still? Drawing from a decade of all-nighter gaming marathons, he explained a secret the world hadn't discovered yet. For bishops wielding massive destructive spells, mental clarity is what keeps those complex formulas from backfiring. The mind is the ultimate regulator of mana. I've never breathed a word of this to anyone. But you're the exception because you're actually kind of cute. Hazel froze, caught between skepticism and a blush. Didn't you call me a gremlin earlier? She teased, but a radiant smile broke across her face anyway. I appreciate the tip, even if it won't boost my rank. I'm locking that class in. Your call, Usiel shrugged, hiding his relief. Her mission accomplished. The girl skipped away with a happy heart. Watching her silhouette fade, a heavy cloud of anxiety settled over Usiel's chest. Had he made a mistake? A deep sigh escaped him. I told her. Now, the timeline is officially off the rails. But he couldn't just watch her walk into another tragedy. If meditation could change her fate, it was worth the risk. As he paced, a realization hit him like a lightning bolt, a massive oversight on his part. He was a mage too, right? So why on earth hadn't he started his own training yet? In-game Usiel was a monster of discipline, focusing on mana restraint and rapid growth. But here, in reality, there's no level up button to mash anymore. Every stat point has to be earned, and it's getting late. Without quests or cutscenes to guide me, I'm flying blind. Still, Hazel really did me a solid today. Exhausted, Usiel finally trudged back to the Stella Academy dorms, where every student is essentially under lock and key. To others, the dorm was just a place to chill. For Usiel, this was his only true sanctuary. Since his village was reduced to ash, this was home. Here, your status determines your floor, regardless of room size. The more elite your rank, the fewer roommates you endure. Naturally, the S-Class Titans reign over the highest levels. Sitting alone in his silent room, a pang of loneliness hit him, but it was the perfect environment for training. He took a steadying breath, clearing his mind. Time to get to work. He sank into a deep, focused trance. This wasn't just about padding stats. This was reality. He had to master this body before the world ended. Usiel was a hidden prodigy, manipulating sword aura through a relentless cycle of internal and external mana. To the world, he was a nobody. But in truth, Baik Usiel was a sword saint in the making. I will reach that peak again, he whispered. My breath is the conductor of the mana symphony within me. If he could expand his mana intake with every breath, he'd eventually harness a lifetime's power in a single heartbeat. In this world, grinding XP isn't enough to evolve. True power demands relentless repetition and grueling training to force a level up. He pushed through the darkness, training until the clock struck 4 a.m. Outside, the first cracks of dawn finally bled into his room. Usiel pushed on, his form engulfed in shimmering gold light. Suddenly, his eyes snapped wide in realization. Lifting his hands, he felt a surge of pure, revitalizing energy. This sensation, he whispered, absolutely floored by the feeling. Ever since his childhood diagnosis of mana leak syndrome, he'd known this faint hum. Now, it was finally becoming undeniable. A system alert flashed. Mana leak syndrome has leveled up. Blink has leveled up. The grind was finally paying off. He smirked at the glowing status screen. Perfect. I'm one massive step closer to my ultimate goal. I'll reach the true ending, no matter the price. Meanwhile, the atmosphere shifts to a place filled with crisp, mountain air. Endless emerald meadows roll toward the horizon as a mysterious figure emerges. Welcome to Stella Academy's most romantic hotspot. Flames soaked in the breeze. Realizing this stunning landscape was nothing but a high-tech artificial construct. Yet, the comfort felt incredibly real. Stella Dormitory is actually a massive pocket dimension tucked inside the campus. Here, students can bend the environment and elements to their will, perfect for high-stakes magical sports. It's the ultimate hub for dungeon raids, gate breaches, and intense monster combat drills. Snapping back to the present, the crowd of students had fully assembled. Flame kept a low profile in the rear. Scanning the crowd, she counted exactly 141 students. 50 came from classes Aone and Atu. 40 were from class S. Wait. In the original novel, there were only supposed to be 39. Counting herself, it should be 40, but an unexpected extra person had crashed the party. Exactly, so where did Usiel come from? The novel's freshman roster only listed 1,140 names. Adding me makes 1,141. So UCL existed in the original? I'll unravel this mystery soon enough. I've got this. After all, I'm the only one alive who knows how this story actually ends. Class was about to kick off, but the students ahead of Flame were already buzzing with excitement. Prince Jeremy, did you lock in your registration for the Blink class yet? Someone shouted. The golden-haired guy in the center smirked, clearly enjoying the attention as he prepared to answer. Obviously, we even joined the soft magic research lab just to be in your orbit. He gave a charming, narrow-eyed grin. Is that so? Then let's look out for each other. Meanwhile, Flame watched him, realizing that was the legendary Prince Jeremy. In the book, he was obsessed with Azel, but after her brutal rejection, he snapped, spiraling down a dark path until he became a major villain. Behind that soft mask lay a cold, calculating mind. I need to watch him and stay out of his crosshairs. Suddenly, Jeremy's eyes locked onto Flame. He played the friendly prince role perfectly, waving with a dazzling, idle-tear smile. Flame waved back reflexively, begrudgingly admitting to herself, okay, he's actually fine as hell. No wonder he has so many clout chasers. Honestly, his squad is stacked with the school's elite. He was rolling with the academy's biggest celebrities. Not wanting any part of it, she turned and walked away. She had to unite them because from this moment on, this fantasy world was her new reality. Preparation for the future started now, but her movement piqued the prince's interest. He smirked, whispering her name. Suddenly, the instructor's booming voice cut through the noise. Listen up, we're kicking off with basic training. I need to gauge your raw potential before I waste my time teaching you the ropes. I'm your lead instructor. If you have a problem with that, keep your mouth shut. I hold your grades in my hands. Fail to hit the score threshold, and you're expelled immediately. Now, for the main event. We're diving straight into real-time dungeon simulations. Expect lethal traps and monster hordes. This is a full-scale test of your survival instincts. 4 points per level 1 kill, 8 for level 2, and 20 points if you snag the golden staff. The top 5 scorers get exclusive shopping perks. Anyone with a 0 gets their points nuked. You can squat up if you're scared, but remember, points will be split evenly between members. Knock out a fellow student, and their points are yours. With that, the teacher vanished into thin air. Good luck, his voice echoed. Suddenly, the earth beneath them began to tremble violently. Chaos erupted as the trainees screamed in terror, feeling the very earth buckle and heave beneath them. Suddenly, the terrain fractured, and a massive entity surged from the abyss, catching Flame completely off guard. Gasping, she watched a gargantuan tree pierce the clouds, warping the entire landscape into something unrecognizable. The realization hit her instantly. This was the legendary Jack and the Magic Beans trial map. The scenery morphed into a suffocating jungle as the students scattered, choosing their own survival paths. Some formed squads, while others went rogue, but Flame's silhouette stood alone in the distance. Gripping her magic staff, she steeled her resolve. It was finally time to dominate this game. Flame, a voice echoed. She turned to find her fiery-haired friend rushing toward her. Jackie questioned her solo strategy, but Flame just gave a subtle, knowing smirk in response. Teaming up for dungeon combat has perks, but flying solo is the real way to farm points. Sorry, but I need to test my limits alone this time, she stated with icy determination. Jackie laughed wryly, noting that solo players don't have to split the glory or the score. Flame nodded in agreement, but a nagging suspicion began to crawl into her mind. Was Jackie low-key trolling her? Shaking off the thought, Flame waved a quick, dismissive goodbye. Let's link up next time, she muttered, turning away without waiting for an answer. Annoyance simmered in Flame's chest. Was she overthinking, or was Jackie's vibe just totally off? It felt like she was being imitated, but she pushed the feeling aside to focus on the grind. 1 hour after the dungeon opened, a mysterious azure glow flickered from the shadows of the forest. Panting and worn out from combat, Flame wiped her brow, muttering about how exhausting this was. Just as she wondered when the session would end, her danger senses began to tingle. A massive, sentient vine lashed out, but Flame's reflexes were sharp as she raised her staff. A burst of blue mana shattered the attack, forcing the shriveled vine to retreat into the brush. She scanned the perimeter, realizing that even the flora in this dungeon was out for blood. 18 points earned. Not bad, but she needed to elevate her game to stay ahead. One more high-value kill would bridge the gap. It was time to keep moving forward. Venturing deeper, she suddenly froze, her eyes widening at a strange sight ahead. A faint silhouette flickered in the distance, obscured by the blinding glare of the sun. Was it a monster? No, it looked human. How could a student be this well hidden? Relying on her own camouflage, she prepped her arsenal of destruction, healing, and control spells. An ambush was the perfect play. Flame crept forward, her movements as silent as a ghost. Closing the distance, the shadow finally came into focus. It was none other than Uziel. He was walking solo, despite every other student practically begging to be on his team. Why reject everyone? Her eyes narrowed, landing on the mysterious ring glinting on his hand. A daring plan formed. This was the ultimate chance to see what he was really made of. Yusiel looked bored, yawning as he strolled, completely unaware of the hunter in the trees. She channeled her mana, prepping a light dome. At 15 meters, he was a sitting duck. An intricate orange magic circle flared to life, overflowing with raw, destructive power toward him. Light bullet, she roared, unleashing a scorching bolt of energy straight at his back. At the very last microsecond, UCL sensed the lethal intent closing in from behind. He vanished instantly. Flame stared at the empty, smoking crater, her mind completely reeling in shock. He was gone. Frustration bubbled over as her hands began to shake with total disbelief. How did he dodge a second-level spell? Meanwhile, UCL was already closing the gap using Blink. Materializing behind her, he exhaled sharply, wondering if she was actually trying to kill him. That light beam was no joke. Luckily, his mana leakage syndrome had actually boosted his reactions. His Blink had upgraded to level 1, covering a full 12 meters in a heartbeat. 2 Blink charges left. I could drop him using this terrain, but staying low is the smarter play. Without hesitation, he chained his Blinks, surging away from Flame's location. He cast a quick look over his shoulder, satisfied with the gap. Rank 5 was the goal. There was zero reason to gamble with his life now. 5th place was low-hanging fruit, promising massive buffs to strength and stamina. As for those top 4 spots, those slots belonged to the main characters, and they only needed 3 measly points to lock it in. Suddenly, a sneering voice cut through the air. "Yo, check out the loser we just found." A squad of trainees blocked his path. Their leader smirked. Well, if it isn't Class S's very own Uciel. Uciel recognized him instantly, Raiden, the Academy's newest rising star. Glancing at the goons backing him up, Uciel felt nothing but contempt. Jeremy's bottom-tier rejects were here too. Absolute trash. But a question popped up. How did a scrub like Raiden manage to hoard so many points? One lackey chimed in. Word is, he's a total fraud who cheated his way into Class S. The blonde leader cackled. Class S status just for answering 3 brain-dead riddles? What a joke. Stella must have been brainwashed. Uciel sighed inwardly. Great. They are still yapping about the same old drama. They never get bored of it. Mistaking Uciel's silence for fear, Raiden stepped forward smugly. Look, since we are here, be a good boy and surrender those point staves. Uciel's response was short and icy. Get lost. Raiden's eyes glinted with amusement. Oh, playing the tough guy. Are we? A predatory grin spread across his face. You really think you can take us all solo? You still betting your life on that high-tier Blink staff? Pathetic. You cannot even cast a spell, let alone wield a real staff. Uciel just stood there, unfazed. A basic Blink won't cut it against a noble clan heir. But if I can chain 3 together, I might have a shot using this point staff. Plus, the dungeon layout is on my side. With a plan formed, Uciel held out the point staff. Fine. You want it? Take it. Thinking the fraud had finally broken, Raiden reached out, looking incredibly satisfied with himself. Smart move, kid. I like submissive ones. Uciel narrowed his eyes. Enjoy it while it lasts. Karma hits hard. The moment Raiden lowered his guard, Uciel blurred forward with godlike speed, snatching a point stick right back. Grinning, Uciel swung the staff like a blunt weapon, shattering Raiden's defensive formation in a single, crushing blow. Raiden gnashed his teeth, spitting out venomous curses. You filthy commoner rat. The impact sent Raiden flying, his body slamming violently into a thick tree trunk. He lost it completely. You dirty dog, he bellowed. But the group froze. Uciel had vanished into thin air. Before they could blink, a voice echoed behind them. Over here! Raiden whipped around, his face pale. Uciel stood there with a cheeky smirk. That was a close one, but hey, thanks for the loot. Now holding 2 point sticks, Uciel looked satisfied. Raiden shrieked like a lunatic. Give those back, you bastard. Uciel just winked. Nah, I am good. He could not help but feel proud of his quick thinking. These point sticks were surprisingly lethal. He had discovered their hidden potential back in his gaming days. They were essentially glitch items, trash stats, but possessed an absurd level of physical hardness. They were immune to mana destruction, rivaling the durability of the highest-tier magical artifacts. While mages found them useless, in the hands of a physical brawler, they were absolute game-changers. Raiden's face twisted in agony and rage. That lowlife. How dare he rob me? He barked at his stunned lackeys. What are you idiots waiting for? Surround him and kill him. Suddenly, the entire dungeon began to tremble violently. Raiden cursed under his breath. Not now. The dungeon layout is shifting, he screamed. Form up and prep your spells. Do not let him slip away. They were desperate to pin him down. But for Uciel, this chaos was the perfect smokescreen. He bolted into the shadows. One of Raiden's goons spotted the move and shrieked, he is making a break for it. Instantly, Their staves erupted with azure energy, homing in on Uziel like lethal blue streaks of lightning. "You are dead meat!" they roared as a wave of terrifying pressure surged toward his back. Uziel smirked. "Not bad, but you rookies are still way too green to catch me." Just as the mana threatened to swallow him, he vanished mid-air. Raiden's crew was absolutely livid. They were helpless. He blinked again, moving with such insane speed that he completely disappeared from their sight. While the thugs stared ahead, Uziel struck like a bolt of lightning, slipping behind them unnoticed. He smirked. A decade of pro-gaming experience makes weaponizing the terrain as easy as breathing. Raiden was seething. One clean hit was all they needed. Suddenly, the entire dungeon shuddered violently. Seeing his team panic, Raiden barked out, "Keep it together, guys. He is still here. Wait for the tremors to cease. If we miss our magic, the backlash will destroy us. Exercise extreme caution," he warned while scanning. Then, his eyes locked onto Uziel's smug face. He was standing right there. Before Raiden could react, Uziel slammed his staff into their defensive circle. The massive impact shattered the formation, forcing the barrier to explode against Raiden's own allies. Boom! The circle collapsed, unleashing a brutal magical backlash that tore through their ranks. Our hero bolted, grinning as he watched the chaotic friendly fire dismantle the entire group. It was game over. As the debris cleared, Raiden screamed, "Uziel, you little rat!" Uziel just flexed his 3 looted staffs. "These are mine now," he laughed, acting completely unbothered. "Maybe I'll gift these to a future girlfriend." "Peace out, losers." Raiden stood frozen. When did he steal those? "Give them back." The protagonist just chuckled, feeling like an absolute boss. "That's plenty. Stealing their final piece would be too much drama." "Aw," he teased. That reaction was priceless. "I've had my fun, I'm out." Then, he blinked away. Raiden's squad shook with fury. Their leader screamed, "You absolute piece of trash." A hidden female apprentice witnessed everything. Meanwhile, Uziel was already miles away from the chaos. "What a haul!" he cheered. "In an open fight, I'd be toast, but dungeons are my playground." That is seasoned gamer instinct. But wait, a strange chill crept up his spine. It was already too late. A massive fireball streaked toward him. Our hero's jaw dropped in shock. "What is this? Is it raining fire?" The hellfire slammed into his position. A relentless downpour of fireballs triggered massive explosions. He couldn't even find an opening. Forced to spam blink, he fled for his life. What kind of terrifying magic is this? Glancing at the incinerated forest, he realized he had narrowly escaped a total disaster. "Who's trying to assassinate me?" A mysterious silhouette emerged from the thick smoke. She stood tall and yelled, "Hey, peasant, why did you leave that last staff behind?" The fire-wielding girl was Princess Hongbian. Uziel was completely caught off guard. "Why is she here?" He scratched his head awkwardly. "You've got the wrong guy. I can't just take everything. Besides, what's it to you anyway?" She blushed, feeling slightly rude. But Uziel didn't trust her one bit. "Wait, are you planning to rob me? Don't forget who taught you everything." "I am royalty," she boasted. "If you understand, then let's duel properly. I don't steal from commoners. I'll defeat you fairly and take what I want." Uziel felt his blood pressure skyrocket. "Hey, stop being a bully. Why pick on the weak?" Hongbian countered. "Are you actually weak though? I saw you toy with them earlier. You clearly used top-tier magic, right?" She knew she had to finish this before her mother scolded her. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. Raiden's gang was closing in, screaming for Uziel's head. "That bastard is a monster." The princess recognized them instantly. Uziel didn't wait around and bolted. She hesitated, unsure if she should attack. No matter her power, fighting 6 enemies at once was suicide. She lurked, waiting for their mana to drain before striking. Meanwhile, Uziel refused to be a sitting duck. He launched a rear ambush, shattering their formation with a sudden magical burst. Hongbian watched from afar, stunned that this commoner knew spells beyond just blink. Her lackeys were weak compared to her, but leagues above that country peasant. They should have performed better. Seeing their failure, she bit her lip and focused. Instantly, a glowing circle erupted around her as searing flames began to consume the air. Time for some real pyromancy. Without hesitation, she unleashed a devastating torrent of fire. Uziel felt the heat. Like a flash of lightning, he used blink to vanish from the blast zone. Suddenly, the air grew heavy as a terrifying wall of flames barreled toward him. He leaped and blinked desperately while Hongbian tracked his every move through the inferno. Then, boom! A massive explosion rocked the entire area. Our hero finally caught his breath. Damn, her magic is actually lethal. My instincts saved me, but I have burned through 2 blinks already. I am running low. How do I handle her now? Suddenly, Hongbian shouted, "Why is your staff missing?" Uziel stood stunned. "I am holding yours. What about the one you got at enrollment?" Hongbian pressed him. Reality hit Uziel like a truck. Why hadn't he thought of that? Disgusted by his act, she hissed, "Stop hiding your true power." Her eyes burned with agitation. Her pupils turned a demonic blood red as she glared at Uziel with pure spite. "I am playing for keeps, yet this nobody treats it like a joke," she roared. "If you won't fight seriously, I will just end you here." Uziel felt a deathly chill. Goosebumps erupted. "I am trying my best," he thought, as Hongbyon's aura flared. "Die or fight." Behind her, a sea of hellfire roared, reflecting her murderous resolve. "Today, I crush you." She snapped out of her thoughts and hurled the flames at him. Uziel lost his cool. He scrambled to dodge, weaving through the heat like a madman. Barely surviving the onslaught, he slumped down, completely paralyzed by her overwhelming power. But there was no time to rest. He leaped up, staring down the massive inferno. Even with Blink, that attack radius is insane. "I am cornered, what do I do?" Suddenly, a noise from behind caught his attention, and a wild plan started forming. He activated Blink again. In a flash, he vaulted toward the only spot without fire. Behind a massive boulder, Uziel panted. Thanking his lucky stars, he escaped that fiery death. He looked down, realizing just how narrow his escape really was this time. "It is still a nightmare. Even if I get close, those flames act like a sentient shield. I have fought fire mages before, but her rank is on a whole different level. This is bad. In an open field, I would be dust in under 60 seconds. It wouldn't even be a fight." As fire rained down, a crazy idea hit him. "I will use those guidance rods' power." His gaze hardened. The winner has not been decided yet. Determination surging, he dove into the flames. Sparks flew as the Mona Lisa syndrome kicked in, heightening his senses to the absolute limit. His perception of time slowed to a crawl. The world around him practically froze in place. He easily sliced through her spells. Hongbion gasped. "Impossible! A weapon against magic? How is he doing that?" Uziel pushed through, locked in a life-or-death struggle. Every second felt vivid. This was not a game controlled by a mouse anymore, it was reality. His sixth sense sharpened while the mana barrier intensified. Everything felt more real than ever. Hongbion stood frozen, her mind reeling from the sheer absurdity of it. "This forest should be my domain. Fine. If that is how it is, I will turn up the heat." She poured every drop of her mana into her staff for one final strike. Beak Uziel swung desperately, hacking away at Bion's relentless spells. Breathless, he dove behind a jagged boulder for cover. Constant defense was a losing game. He gripped his staff, aiming to pulverize Hongbeon's barrier, before charging through the inferno. His pace quickened as he closed in. Then, with a sudden blink, he teleported right into her personal space. Hongbeon froze in total shock. Gnashing her teeth in rage, she spun around, only to see Beak staring back. Uziel had invaded her domain. Their gazes locked, tension crackling like lightning in the middle of the flames. He had it all calculated. A fire mage's burst usually repels anyone within 2 meters, a deadly defensive reflex. A smirk played on his lips. While others would panic, a veteran with 10 years of survival experience knew better. This was familiar territory. Suddenly, the force of her blast sent him flying backward through the air. Bion watched, jaw dropped, convinced she'd won. Yet, Uziel hit the ground running, instantly recovering his momentum. He struck her barrier with those wooden rods, webbing the shield with cracks. Bayon couldn't process the impossible sight. How was this happening? Uziel didn't give her a second to breathe, unleashing a ferocious, non-stop barrage. With a final glass-shattering crunch, the shield exploded. Bion collapsed, badly hurt, as Uziel loomed over her. He flashed a bright grin, sat down, and declared victory. The proud princess bit her lip, drowning in humiliation. "Just who are you?" she hissed. Uziel stood up slowly, playing it cool. "Me? Just your average student." Then, his eyes shifted. "The stowaway in the shadows can stop hiding now," he called out mysteriously. Caught red-handed, the flame girl emerged. She cautiously stepped toward them, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "How did you spot me?" Flame demanded. Uziel struggled to find a logical explanation for his superhuman awareness. He gave a forced, awkward laugh. Call it a hunch. In reality, his mana-sensing intuition was just that sharp. Flame wasn't buying that weak excuse for a second. She stared him down, her skepticism reaching its peak. "A hunch? Really?" she scoffed. "And I suppose breaking a high-level shield with a basic wand was a hunch too?" Uziel went totally blank. Flame pressed harder, demanding he explain how a piece of wood shattered magic. He realized this was getting dangerous. This story was veering far away from the original romance novel's plot. He understood her suspicion, but the truth was too heavy. Quickly, he cooked up a desperate cover story. He held up the rod with a goofy smile. "This? Oh, it's just really, really sturdy." Flame's face twisted. "Are you kidding me?" she snapped. "If swinging sticks worked, mages would have been wiped out by knights ages ago." Uziel nodded inwardly, admitting she was right. His logic was paper thin, and he knew he looked sus. His vague answers only fueled Flame's confusion. She was looking at him like he was some mysterious monster. "Everything about you is weird," she exclaimed. "I have to know. Beak UCL. Who are you? Really?" Bayon stood there, feeling like a ghost, but she was hanging on to every word of their intense conversation. Under Flame's relentless interrogation, UCL began to sweat. His mind raced as he looked for an exit. Was his cover finally blown? It hadn't even been a month, and the main cast was already onto him. Should he just come clean? No way. Flame didn't trust him at all. Revealing the truth would be suicide. He took a deep breath. "Listen, you might suspect me, but I'm not some villain lurking in the dark." Flame tilted her head, completely lost. "What? What are you even talking about right now?" UCL gave a nervous grin. "Exactly what I said. My only goal is to actually help you out." This just made Flame more frustrated. "Help me? With what? Stop being so cryptic. It's driving me insane." Instead of answering, UCL turned his back and waved. He knew it was time to make a quick escape. "I'd love to chat, but I'm late. See ya." He left Flame standing there, absolutely fuming with rage. Bion watched him go, her eyes filled with a new, strange intensity. His display of power had changed everything. She looked like she was about to do something wild. UCL just hoped they'd both give him a break. Suddenly, a pair of wooden sticks flew through the air, pelted at him by a very frustrated Bion. She froze after throwing them, looking confused. Meanwhile, UCL took the hits directly, groaning in sheer pain. He clutched his head, spinning around to yell. "Damn it, if you've got beef, say it. Why throw stuff?" "I thought you'd catch them," Bion muttered. "You dodge legendary magic, but you can't stop a flying stick?" UCL was speechless. His mana sensing was for high-tier threats, not random trash. He was officially out of excuses. Seizing the moment, he faked a grimace and played up the agony. "Man, that hurts. My mana sensing window is strictly tied to my mental stamina. With my focus totally fried, a brutal headache set in, making everything a blur." Amidst the haze, Beak watched him with pure confusion. "Wait, why are you handing these to me?" he asked. Bion didn't hesitate, coldly stating, "You won the duel, so they're yours." These point tokens were high-stakes loot, but a thought nagged at him. Was she just being low-key salty? "If I actually take all of these, my ranking is going to absolutely skyrocket. Besides, the rest of this trash doesn't really do much for me anyway." With that in mind, he reached down, swiped a single token, and stood up with a satisfied grin. "Fine then, thanks, but I'm only taking this one. You keep the change. I'm out." With a casual wave over his shoulder, he turned and started walking away, leaving them behind. As he retreated, he got lost in his own hype, a smug little smirk creeping across his face as he imagined his own greatness. He was sure they were stunned by his mercy. What a total legend, they must think. A saint who's kind to losers. So cool. He hoped they were vibing with his main character energy. But the cold truth was the complete opposite. "Flame on." Rita groaned. "That guy is straight up tripping. He's totally unstable." Bion sighed wearily. Probably just a commoner with a fried brain. She figured his mind was just scrambled. But deep down, she couldn't stop wondering who exactly was this mysterious Beak. UCL anyway? Meanwhile, far beyond the dungeon walls, Professor Lee Hanwall and the rest of the faculty were glued to the monitors, tracking every single move. The magical broadcast was ultra crisp, capturing the action in vivid and terrifying realism. Watching the feed, someone gasped, "Whoa, this year's Class S first year. Students are absolute monsters." Hearing the praise, Professor Lee Hanwall leaned in to get a better look at the screen. Stroking his beard, he hummed, "Certainly worth the watch so far, wouldn't you say?" The man speaking was Telix, a heavy hitter from the Magic Council. The woman standing beside him nodded, fully agreeing with the senior elder's assessment. "Oh, it's more than interesting." She beamed, her eyes crinkling with a mix of satisfaction and genuine amusement. She was likely thinking she was even more cracked in her prime. This woman was none other than Jarina Eon, a power player from the Blue Tower Council. Their sudden arrival caught Professor Lee Hanwall completely off guard. He mused to himself, the Magic Council and the Tower Council? All this for a simple trainee internship observation? But it made sense this was peak headhunting season for top-tier talent. You've got to scout early to secure the best. The entire faculty was locked into this session. Suddenly, the room erupted into a wave of whispers and shocked shouts. "Yo, look at that!" Snapping back to attention, Professor Lee Hanwall fixed his gaze on the main display. On the screen, two male students were squaring up, the air between them thick with pure killing intent. It didn't take long for the crowd to recognize the two powerhouses. The hype was real as they shouted their names. Huang Yang and Ma Yusheng are actually clashing. Without a moment's delay, Huang Yang lunged, brandishing his staff. He unleashed a high-tier spell, a wave of pure destructive energy aimed right at his rival. But Ma Yusheng didn't even flinch. He stood his ground, cold and calculating. Just as the magic was about to impact, he surged with power and blinked upward. He pulled off a triple consecutive blink, dancing through the magical crossfire with ease. The audience was absolutely stunned. Jarina Eon gasped, "No way, he just spammed 3 level 3 magical blinks back to back? That's insane." Even Professor Telix was floored. 17 years old, and he's already at that level? Li Hanwal watched, eyes fixed on the screen. Most mages would be lucky to hit level 3 by age 25. Yet here was Ma Yusheng, a mere 17-year-old, mastering high-level magic like it was second nature. It was beyond logic. Suddenly, another shout broke the silence. Look, both combatants were cycling through 3 different elemental attributes seamlessly. The duel had turned into an absolute cinematic masterpiece. It was a clash of equals. Witnessing the carnage, Professor Li Hanwal couldn't help but marvel at the spectacle. Usually, a sorcerer struggles with one element, and mastering 2 takes a lifetime. But these two? Wielding 3 attributes is the ultimate flex of innate talent, a gift from the heavens themselves. As Li Hanwal watched, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. Is that the final phantasmal beast? A massive hawk suddenly tore through the sky. Its aura was dripping with pure, unadulterated bloodlust. Ma Yusheng and Huang Yang froze, their duel instantly forgotten. But before they could even draw a breath, the beast let out a gut-wrenching, agonizing shriek. The horrific cry tore through the dungeon's silence as the creature began a slow, terminal descent. The boys stood paralyzed. They were completely blindsided by the sudden shift. The bird crashed down, right in front of them, lifeless. Then, a soft, airy voice drifted down. "Oh dear, are you guys having a little spat?" It was Azel, looking down from above. "Forgive me for the intrusion, Professor." Li Hanwal remained submerged in a sea of heavy thoughts. That girl, Azel, she triggered a hidden boss that only spawns under the most impossible conditions. Tracking it is a nightmare. Slaying it is suicide. Yet, she hunted the beast down entirely solo. Despite her jaw-dropping feat, the faculty behind her only watched with eyes filled with unexpected pity. "A traitor's firstborn," one muttered. "A tragic waste. Had her father not committed that unspeakable sin, her potential would have reached the heavens." Suddenly, his breath hitched as his eyes nearly popped out. "Wait, what's happening? There's the Adalbert princess, but who on earth is that kid facing her? He's a complete ghost, no record." Suddenly, Professor Li Hanwal's composure shattered into a million pieces. "Impossible," he gasped. "Is that blink? For over a century, that spell has been a death sentence. Countless geniuses tried to master it, only to end up crippled or dead. It's the ultimate forbidden art, an untamable beast of a spell. Yet, this boy wields blink as naturally as breathing." Elder Telix sat in stunned silence. His shock mirrored Hanwal's perfectly. The room grew deathly quiet. Finally, someone dared to whisper, "Who is that kid?" Li Hanwal didn't hesitate for a single second. "That's Baek Yusol, a complete anomaly who has claimed blink as his very own signature move." The room erupted. "A signature move? That's insane. This defies everything we know about natural-born prodigies. Not even Azel or Ma Yusheng compare to this." Elder Telix rubbed his temples, completely baffled. "Really? But why is he just trolling? If he actually cast a real spell, it'd be over. That duel would have been a wrap instantly. I don't get it." But before he could finish, a voice cut through the air. "No, he's dead serious." Every head snapped toward the newcomer. Their eyes widened in pure terror. The figure standing there left them absolutely speechless and shaking. "Eltman Eltwin?" He spoke calmly. "He's been going all out. You lot just aren't seeing the truth. Fascinating, isn't it? The way that boy moves. It's like watching a legendary knight from the mythic age." "A knight?" The room gasped. "That's impossible. Those legends died out eons ago. It can't be real." Even Telix lost it. "You mean the warriors who vanished alongside the era of cold steel? Back when battles were won by pure edge and grit, no mana, no fire, just raw physical power. How can a mere student pull this off? It's a miracle." Hanwal remained glued to the monitor. Finally, the realization hit him like a freight train. He smirked quietly. "So, that's the secret. He's walking the path of the knight. That ancient, indomitable spirit hasn't faded away. The warriors who once stood as the world's shield, using nothing but sharp steel against the darkness. They were masters of the blade. But fighting like that today was thought to be an impossibility. Yet, this kid wields a wooden staff like a razor-sharp claymore. If the sage is right, he's a once-in-a-generation monster." The legendary principal of Stella Academy watched on with a sharp gaze. "A ninth circle monster and one of the continent's great sages. If he's impressed, the world should be." The first exam drew to a close. Meanwhile, over at the elite S-class training grounds, a lone figure was pushing himself to the brink, lashing out at a dummy with raw mana. Drenched in sweat and gasping for air, his muscles screamed in protest. Then, a sudden realization hit. His staff's mana core flickered, nearly empty, but the hunger in his eyes showed zero satisfaction. Damn it, he cursed. This isn't enough. I'm still leagues away from my real goal. Out of 141 hopefuls, 39 were ruthlessly cut from the program. Failure meant expulsion. Azel took the crown, but he was forced to settle for second place. Ma Yusheng hit sixth, yet victory felt like ash. His mind drifted back to that dungeon clash. When the final boss emerged, he wondered, what is Ma Yusheng truly hiding beneath that calm surface? Han Riang gritted his teeth, the bitterness burning his throat. He's hated that guy since day one. Ma Yusheng's effortless genius made his blood boil. No matter the task, Yusheng shattered every expectation effortlessly. He'd laid traps and calculated every variable, yet the results still didn't sit right with him. Ma Yusong parried every strike with chilling ease. No matter the effort, that monster was simply untouchable. Is his talent some unreachable fortress? No. Wallowing in self-pity won't save me now. I need more power. Suddenly, Beyond stepped into the arena, her eyes locking onto a chaotic scene. A male student brandished a staff, conjuring a massive vortex of pure energy. She froze in disbelief. Haewon Ryong? That ice-cold genius was training like a man possessed today. Shaking off the distraction, she ignited her own mana. Her entire frame radiated a blinding, infernal orange. With a roar, she launched a devastating fireball. A thunderous blast rocked the entire training hall. Clearly, she was in a foul mood. Was she channeling her hidden rage into this brutal training? As the flames roared, the shockwave forced Haewon Ryong to halt his relentless assault and look. He searched for the source of such raw power. Meanwhile, Beyond's blood was still boiling with frustration. Third place? Unacceptable. Even with extra points and the Queen Mother's approval, she felt like a failure. If she didn't peak soon, the consequences would be dire. That arrogant commoner was living rent-free in her head. Curse my luck. Fueled by spite, she unleashed a blinding flare that scorched the air itself. Dust settled around the explosion site. Beyond stood in the center, gasping for air, her energy spent. Watching from the side, Haewon Ryong was baffled. What on earth had gotten into the princess? Despite her chaotic emotions, her spellcasting precision had actually reached a whole new level of deadly. It was terrifying. Princess Beyond's pyromancy possessed a raw, destructive force she'd never shown before. Her control was pinpoint despite the short prep time. Even Beyond was shocked by her own explosive growth. It's annoying to admit, but UCL's bizarre lecture actually worked. Those riddles boosted my mana output significantly. He's just a low-born commoner with a trash personality, yet he has the answers. UCL is the only one who truly understands how to break my limits. So why am I so tilted? Your Highness. A voice suddenly shattered her thoughts. It was Ye Terran, rushing toward her. Report. The woman bowed. The Terran scepter you sent for repairs is ready. Should I notify UCL? Looking at the restored artifact, Beyond's eyes flickered. Is it finally fixed? Perfectly, Ye Terran replied before taking her leave. I shall excuse myself then, Your Highness. As the attendant walked away, a sudden thought struck Beyond. Wait, she called out, stopping her cold. Moments later, Beyond stood before the second main tower, clutching Uciel's scepter with trembling hands. Her mind was a mess. I only came here because I heard he was around, she lied to herself. This was the professor's research hub. What business could a guy like him have in a place like this? Is he meeting the faculty? Suddenly, Beyond's heart raced. She turned away, her face flushing with regret. Why am I even here? I could have just tossed this back to him at the training grounds. This looks like I'm thirsty for his attention. I need to get out of here before… Oh? Princess Beyond? What brings you to these halls? A familiar voice cut through her panic. Beyond jumped, stammering out a greeting. Professor Hammerl. It's been a while, ma'am. The professor smiled warmly. It feels like yesterday you were my student. You've grown into quite the mage. So, why the visit? Beyond fumbled for an excuse. Just some official business. But it's not important now. I was actually just leaving, she added, her face burning with embarrassment. Hammerl nodded knowingly. Wise choice. It's a total circus in there right now anyway. Beyond blinked. Circus? Hammerl continued. Every magic official in the academy is currently swarming one particular student. UCL. Beyond's jaw dropped. Why would the High Council be interested in a magicless commoner? You know he doesn't possess mana, right? The professor asked. Beyond nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Inside, she felt a wave of humiliation. The professor had seen her lose to a weakling. Why did I have to look so pathetic in front of the one person I truly admire? This is soul-crushing. Hammerl noticed the shift in her mood and softened her gaze. Princess, don't be so hard on yourself. That boy gave everything he had in that fight, Beyond muttered, but he didn't even use magic. Professor Hammerl chuckled. It's all about faith. Faith? Bion gasped, completely caught off guard. Precisely. The professor continued. The headmaster saw the training and realized Uziel aims to resurrect the extinct order of knights. Bion stood paralyzed by disbelief. Professor, you can't be serious, she cried out. A mage becoming a knight? Impossible. But then, memories of their clash flashed before her eyes. It hit her, Uziel wasn't casting spells. He was wielding that staff like a deadly blade. With nothing but a wooden stick, he had demolished her ultimate defense and shattered her magic sword. A wave of anxiety hit her as she stammered, but refusing magic in a place like this. He'll be crushed by penalties. They'll strip his points and punish him without mercy. Hammerall's tone turned solemn. True, he knows the risks, yet he walks this dangerous path anyway. It's poetic, really. Even with his god-tier blink skill, he chooses the hard way. Pure, unshakable conviction. With a final nod, the professor vanished, leaving Bion drowning in a sea of confusing thoughts. Pursuing the way of the sword in this era, anyone else would be a total laughingstock. It sounded like a meme, a literal joke. But Uziel's eyes weren't joking, he was dead serious. She'd snapped at him before to quit playing games. Suddenly, the man himself strolled into view. Shaking her out of her trance, Uziel asked, "What are you doing lurking here?" He was casually munching on a rare rank 5 herb like a snack. Bion's face instantly turned beet red. Recovering quickly, she blurted out, "I'm definitely not here to see you. Talk about suspicious timing." Uziel chuckled. "Chill, I didn't even ask." His smug grin was practically begging for a slap. Bion shot him a glare so icy, it physically silenced him. Message received, shutting up now. She shoved a mysterious box toward him, her voice freezing over. "Just take it and go." Uziel's eyes lit up like fireworks. "No way. Is this Teravin? You're a lifesaver, princess." He cracked the lid and gasped. Inside lay a blade so radiant it felt like staring at pure light. The legendary invisible sword, he thought, awestruck. Adalbert's work was truly on another level. Having a royal benefactor definitely has its perks. He couldn't afford this in 10 lifetimes. He asked to keep the box too, his greedy merchant face showing. That gold-trimmed wood was worth a fortune. Do whatever, Bion sighed, exhausted. Inside, Uziel was doing a victory lap. Jackpot, he cheered. Even if the princess's aura was a bit scary right now. She rolled her eyes at his peasant-tier greed. But a nagging question still weighed heavy on her mind. Swallowing her pride, she finally plucked up the courage. "Hey Uziel, answer me one thing." "Yeah? What's the vibe?" he asked. Bion leaned in. "Do you really refuse to use magic?" The question hung in the air. Uziel went stiff, and the silence became painfully awkward. Face burning, she spun around and bolted. "Never mind, just forget I said anything." Uziel watched her vanish, completely baffled by the mood swing before heading toward the training grounds. He pondered her words, remembering how Professor Hammerall had also poked at his faith earlier. The old man acted like he understood his perspective, but honestly, he didn't have a clue. "Who cares if they get it?" he muttered. "As long as I have this blade, I'm solid." A surge of confidence filled him. Time to see what this baby can actually do. He hurried to the Class S training grounds, itching to test the legendary weapon's true power. Gripping the hilt, he whispered, "Okay, let's see what happens when I pump some mana in." Flames erupted from his palm, solidifying into a razor-sharp edge. Whoa, talk about a glow-up. It was perfection. But then, a thought darkened his mood. Flame would make this look even better. With her, the colors would be otherworldly. Flame truly was a celestial tier anomaly in this world. A human-wielding ancient dwarf and elf magic? It's insane. That wand would drain anyone else dry. It eats mana for breakfast, yet Flame effortlessly recharges through nature. She's literally built different. Then there's me, total mana bankruptcy. No matter how much I absorb, my magic leakage bleeds it dry. My body can't hold mana, it just spills right out. My very breath will become a glowing beacon for Teravin. That's when it clicked he hadn't messed with that damn system in a hot minute. He pulled up the interface and whispered, "Status check." Instantly, a glowing holographic panel flared to life. Uziel's stats: strength at 77%, senses at 29, agility hitting 87, and stamina at 55. Endurance peaked at 97, mental power at 43, and mana experience, stone cold, 0. Skill, blink, level 1. Trait, mana leakage delay, level 2. Buffs, strength plus 5%, agility plus 8, and senses up by 15. Sixth sense active, consumes mental energy to track every drop of mana within an 18-meter radius. Auto-perception acceleration, triggers when danger's close. Blood flow boosts by a crisp 1%. Reviewing the board, he smirked. That rank 5 herb reward really did wonders for his physical growth. His muscles were finally solidifying, but to really grind experience, He'd need a proper weapon soon. Sword practice is next. Things are about to get hectic. Transition to the academy the following morning. Inside the lecture hall, a mage's voice boomed. Starting today, we dive into the world of true magic spells. Spread out, raise your staffs and focus. This was Professor Virion, the undisputed master of defensive arts. After a brief lecture, he prowled through the aisles, watching his students lock into their training. Echoes of Magic Shield filled the air. Virion beamed, his eyes crinkling with pure satisfaction at the effort. He thought this year's crop was elite until he saw something that made him freeze in his tracks. While the entire class was grinding hard, Uziel was just standing there, looking totally bored. Virion narrowed his eyes. Is this the rumored S-rank commoner, a low-born peasant reaching the top? He's got a mid-tier staff and placed 5th in the dungeon trials. But something feels off. Watching him slack off was honestly irritating. Virion masked his annoyance with a plastic smile and approached. Hey, Uziel, isn't it? Why aren't you practicing like everyone else? Our hero didn't have an easy explanation. Flashing a forced grin, he replied, Actually, I'm currently mastering a completely different defensive style. So, basics just aren't necessary for me. The professor's eyebrows shot up. Oh, is that so? I'd love to see this special style, Virion said, while internally screaming. You arrogant little brat. If it were Princess Beyond using Adalbert's legendary legacy, fine. But a mere commoner? Who does this peasant think he is, looking down on my class? Not a bad attitude, kid. He remembered Uziel only used the blink skill. A wicked idea started brewing. Time for some fun. Heh. With a fake cheerfulness that didn't reach his eyes, he said, Why don't you show us? Give the class a demo of your superior defense. Let's broaden everyone's horizons here, shall we? He scanned the room before pointing to the back. Your opponent will be. Morso from Class B. Morso stood up with a cocky smirk, looking absolutely hyped to crush someone in public. As he waited, Virion schemed. To keep his status in the Scalvan Empire, he needed the right clout. Maintaining high-level relationships was the only way to survive in this cutthroat imperial school. Boosting his prestige by humiliating an elite in public? Nothing could be better for his career. What better way to prove his worth than a public display of dominance against an S-rank student? After a moment of silence, Uziel shrugged. Fine by me, sir, if that's what you want. To the arena, then. Virion cheered. In seconds, the two stood face-to-face on the battlefield. Morso was grinning like a shark, while Uziel looked completely indifferent. Morso's crew started howling with excitement. Wreck him, Morso. Put that kid in his place. Morso flexed. Easy money, just watch and learn. The noise caught Uziel's attention. He scanned the crowd, recognized those faces, and let out a tired sigh. It was the same old trash Uslek and Raiden's gang. Of course, they were lurking nearby. Those kids never learn. Whatever. This is a required class, and since magic is off the table, if they want to show so badly, I'll give them a performance they'll never forget. Virion's trash reputation had been widespread since day one. This whole situation was just pathetic. Then, a satisfied smirk played on Uziel's lips. Might as well use this chance to test my results. Actually, that's a solid plan, the professor announced. This duel follows a strict attack-defense protocol. Only specific magic is permitted here. Morso immediately dropped into a defensive stance, bracing for impact. Spectators buzzed with anticipation. If he strikes first, Morso definitely takes this, right? Defense is limited. Wait, has he mastered offensive earth spells? Those are notoriously impossible to deflect. Prince Jeremy remained icy calm, observing. The professor's voice boomed. Get ready. Let the duel begin. Show us your peak. Morso instantly channeled his staff, weaving a complex arcane formation. A massive boulder materialized. The crowd gasped in horror. Stop. That's way too much. That's second-level magic. Basic drills are supposed to be capped at level 1 magic only. Is Uziel dead meat? Yet, Uziel didn't flinch. He locked eyes with his opponent's every twitch. Morso fumed. Arrogant Class S, trash. Eat this. With a sneer, he unleashed his lethal gift. He hurled the boulder downward. The stone screeched through the air, radiating a crushing, overwhelming aura. Uziel moved. Flooding his staff with mana, he instantly manifested a shimmering blade of light. He swung with raw precision. The strike looked effortless, but the hidden power was truly terrifying. In a flash, Morso's boulder disintegrated into dust under Uziel's clean slash. The instructor stood frozen, speechless. Jeremy looked unfazed, while Morso began trembling in absolute disbelief. Impossible! My magic vanished? In reality, Uziel had literally carved the spell out of existence. Students whispered in awe. Did he just slice through pure magic with a sword? Another replied, but it's gone. That's impossible. Professor Virion was internally reeling. He puzzled. Slicing it shouldn't make it evaporate. That defies all magical logic in this world. Did Uziel truly delete the spell? Every spell has mana signatures. Sever that mana, and the magic dies. Is that his secret? Meanwhile, Usiel inspected his blade, a satisfied smirk dancing on his lips. Better than I hoped, he mused. Neutralizing second-tier magic proved his grueling training was finally paying off. Just a few days of grinding yielded massive results. This is definitely where I belong. My true battlefield. Morso gnashed his teeth. Damn it. How does a lowly commoner dare block my magic? The professor panicked. If Morso loses, explaining this will be a nightmare. He had to intervene. Usiel, he called out. Your defense is impressive. I will admit, your execution is flawless. However, that technique only blocks single targets. What happens if you are swarmed by multiple massive attacks? He was feeding Morso the answer. Grasping the hint, Morso's face twisted into a cunning grin. Usiel rolled his eyes. This teacher talks way too much garbage. Suddenly, his instincts screamed danger. Morso didn't hesitate. He summoned a barrage of stones, proving he was a truly formidable elite student. He launched the entire volley at Usiel, each projectile dripping with intense, violent magical energy. The audience shuddered, whispering that this was overkill. Someone is getting hurt. Why isn't the professor stopping this? Morso smirked, tasting victory. It is over. The razor-sharp rocks tore through the air. Tension peaked as the projectiles closed in. Usiel's eyes widened, tracking every incoming threat. Giant boulders and sharp shards screamed toward him. Our protagonist analyzed the chaotic pattern quickly. 11 stones in total. If Blink is off the table, there is only one way to survive this onslaught. As death drew near, Usiel stood his ground. He adjusted his grip, swinging his blade rhythmically. He moved like a dancer. Suddenly, boom! Every single stone detonated simultaneously in midair. Seeing his ultimate magic neutralized so casually, Morso spiraled from shock into a blind, murderous rage. What? He screamed, his mind fractured. How did he just swat away my strongest spell? What kind of monstrous power is this? How can a peasant do this to me? It is insane. Meanwhile, Professor Virion was having a total meltdown. Damn it all, he cursed under his breath. What is Morso doing? We are doomed. If he fails, I am finished. I need a new plan now. Usiel stared at his hands, genuinely surprised. I just copied what I saw in those video games. Not bad. That parry technique is elite. Though, the mental drain is definitely no joke.